Celestial Stone Nest.
Yes. Okay. Here we go. Think of that.
So I'm glad to be familiar with this system.
Right? Yeah, it's good to start off on a good foot. Thankfully, there's not a lot of...
Oh, yeah. It's what I love about it. It's super straightforward.
It's pretty straight. That's not a rule-heavy system.
It was the second system I learned how to play. Mm-hmm.
What was the first?
D&D.
Oh.
Yeah, 3.5, I think.
3.5, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You have to be a little...
Let's be a little specific.
You know, first edition, like everybody.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
AD&D Master Race.
Why? I look back on that and I'm like, you've already tricked me into doing, like, algebra. I don't want to do geometry, too. What do you mean a fireball doesn't have a diameter? It has a literal, like, volume that you then have to mathematically compute depending on the shape of the room you're in. I'm out.
It was all Gygax's trick to get people to do higher order math.
Make math fun again.
It wasn't fun to begin
Nope.
with.
But yeah, I played a... Oh god, what was it? Werewolf the Apocalypse.
Oh.
I was doing a... I think Ragabash. Metis.
Those words mean nothing.
So
I know they're like clans or
think like a bardic clan, very much so nomadic, moving around a lot,
Yeah.
never staying in the same place. Metis is the the product of two werewolves copulating, which too much juju going on there, so they end up like horrifically deformed whenever they're in the hybrid form or Cronus form. I had no idea how to build a character, so it's effectively like ineffectual at combat. Like, what the hell's a werewolf going to do with a gun? I don't know.
Eat it.
Yeah, eat it. It's delicious.
Throw it.
And then for the social element of the game, the first like large social act I did was end up like bumming around on my own, finding somebody, getting invited up to their penthouse apartment, sleeping with them, and then the next day we're both like, oh yeah, we got things to do, blah, blah, blah. We both end up in the same location where I'm there with the pack and she's there with the rest of her vampire kin. I'm like, well, and damn, and that didn't
Still
come up
better love
at
story
all
than
during-
Twilight?
Yeah, honestly, a better love story than Twilight.
Doesn't take much.
It doesn't take fucking anything.
Yep.
Wow.
I will always remember that character.
Very interesting. How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
Oh, Jason, Zoe had a wonderful revelation today. She thought hard for a second. We were talking about something, and she went, what would have happened if you'd never started acting again, Mom? You would never have met Jason. And I was like, I know. Think about how different our life would be right now. It's an easy path to trace there.
Mm-hmm. Probably be fine.
No, we definitely wouldn't be fine. So it means I'd still be married to Nick.
With fewer donuts.
You're what?
Your donuts.
Is that the only metric you've got, though?
That is like for a pretty poor life.
From this point on in my life, you can measure, based on one decision, more donuts
or
less donuts. That's the only thing it affected. That would be...
Well, that's
how'd
the
you
thing,
come up
though,
with
right?
that for a time travel
Because
story?
Donuts
all of the-
impact your whole life.
If you're taking, people like to talk about that whole like fractal timeline thing all the time.
Butterfly effect.
But they always do it with like these really important choices. What it is that literally every time you make a choice, something fractals off. So literally there is a timeline where there are two timelines where everything is exactly the same. But you had one more donut in this timeline than you did in that timeline.
Yep.
Which one's worse?
But that's not the interesting story. No, we have to do the one where you step on a butterfly and suddenly there's
Dinosaurs.
again.
That's beta line 1.202 rather than 1.201.
Right.
I keep telling you that you just need to write this.
Yes, the weirdest part. The weirdest part about that for me is the reference to the time traveler I first experienced through watching Sam and Max, the animated series.
It's weird how you get to this.
Yeah,
this
I'm like,
point.
why is that the first time I was exposed to
Yep.
this?
That should be a thing in that one play that you were thinking about with the four is that
Oh, the couple.
some of them
Yeah.
have less donuts.
Fewer donuts. Yeah. Per table, you're like
Per
3,
table.
6, 2. Got it. This table
Which
with the
one's the
gluten
better
bar,
experience? Obviously.
So the table with the most donuts has the best experience, right? Okay. So
The correlation
That's
that
my
you're
subtle
supposed to-
commentary about
Yes.
the scientific method.
More donuts.
Makes sense.
It's very donut-heavy science.
Literally extracting every 10-sided die.
So I only have 8,
Get
so
those out.
No.
Okay.
Well, you can get some off of me if you need them.
I was to say I can probably. I hope Jason isn't rolling all those against us.
Oh.
You're dead. I didn't have to look at the numbers.
So you just have to
You're
like
dead.
point at the pile, and I'm like, well, I'm dead.
Look at that. Statistically, there's a success in there somewhere, so you're dead.
Let me see your,
But
let me
is
see your
there
cool
a
gothic dice.
was it the ridiculous success?
Ooh,
What was it called? The
There's
where you
ex-
get 5?
Exceptional.
nice. Those are
Exceptional.
so cool.
That's the perfect.
Yeah,
Let me see your,
They're pretty cool.
The Cthulhu one. Jason had reached.
There were a
therapy
couple of
today.
different Cthulhu sets. And
not
absolutely.
Some of them are okay,
Those are-
but
I
like
really like the gothic ones. Those are cool.
Yeah.
Zacks are kind of hard to read because then the actual number is.
I wanted to
super
make sure
small.
that I didn't get that set.
Yeah.
It was like I can never read that. That's why I got these ones with a super like very clear like design on
You
it.
want a legible experience.
That's why I like the ones you got me too, because I could still read them.
That was the idea. I mean, I
Appreciate that.
Part of to me, it feels like part of the dice experience is reading the
Reading the
damn
dice.
number on
Yeah.
the dice. But maybe that's just me.
Well, it's not like I have great vision to begin with, so
If I didn't care what the number was on the dice, well, we would be outside in cloaks with sticks, shouting fireball at each other.
Fireball, not Thunderbolt.
Don't knock it till you tried it.
That's fair. No, that's fair.
Yep.
But if it requires Jason to go outside, he
It
already
is
doesn't
outside,
like it.
so that's already a major knock.
I mean, you could do it indoors.
Well, it's
Then it's like more of a
Then you have
dungeon
co-
experience.
yeah,
and
then
that-
you have, like,
yeah, you
cover
can make that
and
work.
stuff.
it's hard to believe that you're like tumbling through a trapped corridor when you accidentally elbow the coffee maker. You
Yeah.
know, it sort of breaks your immersion.
Mr. Coffee,
Well,
no!
you're just in, the wizard's, lair.
The
I like,
caffeinated layer.
I like that the Wizard's Keep has a coffee maker in it.
Hell yeah, they do.
I actually played a Pathfinder game where we was in a wizard's lair and he was making coffee.
That makes sense. I mean, if you're gonna arcane work is not going to do itself.
Yeah.
You got to power up somehow.
If you have access to supreme arcane power, of course you're going to make a cup of coffee.
You'd have to almost just to handle it.
That was just the DM not wanting to make him part of the combat, so he just had to come up with something for him to do every round.
Yeah. All right,
He
who
is
wants
now
coffee?
adding sugar. The next 3
Just
rounds,
checking
he will,
in every couple of rounds.
he will
How's he
be
doing?
stirring the cup. He finally takes it up to his mouth. No, he does not sip. He smells it first.
It's too hot.
Swishes it around in his
He
mouth
must
like
wait.
it's wine.
No, that's after he sips it, and then he realizes it's too hot.
It burns his throat. He is impaired for 2 rounds.
He is now choking.
My mind goes to like video gamifying it, where it's like, okay, you need to defend the wizard for this amount of time.
Right.
Well,
until
what's
the timer
he doing?
He took
He's
1d5
making coffee.
burning
Yeah.
damage from the hot coffee.
Who cares?
What are those fucking escort quests where they walk
Yeah.
like at half?
Who cares? This is horde
second
mode. Just
and
get
then-
on. Just get on. with it.
Just get it. It's fine.
Oh god, I hate escort quest.
They're the
awful.
worst.
They're
the
universally
worst.
awful.
The only way you can make them passable is when the AI either actively avoids getting involved,
Right?
and the AI doesn't then hunt them,
Right.
or you go Resident Evil 4, where it's like you have brief moments of escort, and even when you're escorting, it's not that bad, with one exception.
Or the NPC can die and the game can move on.
Those are nice too.
Just
yeah.
a Fallout game, or,
Yeah.
or a Skyrim, or something like that. Or you're dead.
CRPGs.
Well, who cares? So, The way that this system works, it's pretty simple. In the sense of like Shadowrun, you're building a dice pool, right? And that pool is entirely made out of D10s. And the idea is for whatever you're doing, and this will be familiar with you guys. You've played the D6 systems that we've used before. You take your attribute, you take your skill, or in some cases another attribute if it doesn't cover it or whatever. You add up the dots that you have in each of those things, right? And then that number is the number of D10s that you're rolling, right? And 8 through 10, 8, 9, and 10 are count as successes. Now, in a normal situation, 10s also explode, meaning you can re-roll them again and keep re-rolling them as long as you get 10s. That counts for success after success after success, right? Now, there may be situations, depending on the mechanics of the game, your personal merits, or the situation may call for what's called 9 again or 8 again, which is exactly what it sounds like. Instead of just 10s exploding, now the 9s explode, or the 8s explode. You see what I'm saying? They're giving you more opportunities to generate more successes. If, because of various circumstances, your equipment, if you spend your willpower, you can modify your dice pool, either by adding dice or subtracting them, right? If you ever get to a point where you have 0 or negative dice, right, you got nothing. You can always roll at what's called a chance die, which is just take 1 and you roll it. If you get anything other than a 10, you fucked up. Just a 10 counts as a success. So it's a last ditch, like, I'm definitely going to try this. Let's see what happens. On the flip side of that, if you get 5 successes or more on a check, or whatever you're doing, that's an exceptional success, which means that something exceptional is going to happen. Not only did you succeed, but usually you'll gain some kind of beneficial condition, like inspired or knowledgeable, or there's a whole host of conditions that I can apply to you based on the context, and that'll give you like a bonus die to X or Y, or like you're better at this or that for a temporary, certain amount of time, right? Think of them as exactly like conditions in a video game, or conditions in like 4E or so, statuses, effects, or whatever. But they can be both positive and negative, right? Let's see here. Like the big picture. That's essentially it for like the base, the nuts and bolts, right? So basically, you're constructing a dice pool to do something. Here's an example. Like, if you wanted to interrogate somebody, you would take manipulation, which is over here in the kind of the social column, right? Presence, manipulation, and composure. You would take manipulation, the number of dots you got there. You would add either empathy as a skill, if you're trying to take the soft touch, the good cop approach, or intimidation, which would be the bad cop approach, and add those dice together, and add those dots together, and that's your dice pool, right? Say you had 2 and 3, that's 5 die. However, it would be resisted by the victim's resolve, right? So I would take a look at the person's resolve, whatever that may be, and I say, okay, their resolve is 2, so now your dice pool is 3. It used to be 5, I'm taking 2 away because of the resolve. Now let's see what happens. So instead of being a contested roll where they would actively construct their pool and roll, and we would compare successes, right? Instead, I'm just using that sort of the victim's resolve as a kind of modifier, and all you have to do is roll. If you get a success, it happened, right? And that's the difference between resisted and contested rolls. Resisted is important if the number of successes matters, right? And now damage is a great example of this, right? Because if you're rolling to attack and you get certain successes, right, you would take the damage as a modifier against the pool that you're rolling, right? Because the number of successes matters there, because that's raw damage, right? Now, if you're just trying to, like, you know, decide who, like, if you're sneaking and you're trying to see if somebody spots you, right? That's a contested roll. So you would roll your stealth, and they would roll their notice, you know, right? And the most successes would win in that case, right? You can work together. The notion is that you pick somebody who's acting like as the main guy or gal, right? Main person. And they would decide on the dice pool that they're rolling based on the task, right? And then everybody else would assemble that same pool based on their own statistics. Does that make sense? So they would be constructing their own personal version of whatever the pool is that the guy's using. And if the helpers get successes, each of those successes add a die to the main person's primary pool, right? So if I were rolling something and you two were helping me out and both of you got successes and I started with 3 die, I would get 4, 5. And then I would roll mine and see what happened. So I have a better chance of success because you guys were actively helping me out. However, if you dramatically fail that roll, which means you roll
No success.
No successes
and
and one.
And one.
Well, actually, that depends. The point, the dramatic failure is usually if you're rolling a chance die. Remember, just a single die, and you get a 1. That's a dramatic failure. That's super bad. Or you can voluntarily turn a normal failure into a dramatic failure for a beat, which is sort of the currency for experience. Right? Does that make sense?
Okay.
So if you happen to get a dramatic failure while you were trying to help somebody, the main actor's pool would go down by 4.
Oof.
So
Don't.
be smart about what you're helping, right? If you decide to help with somebody and your dice pool is literally a chance die, like 1, maybe don't help them. Because God knows that 1 pops up and then you've torpedoed the whole thing. Right?
Maybe they don't want your help.
Maybe you should sit over there, right? Let's see.
I'm helping.
Right.
Now, if you're in a position where you want to use a skill or you have to use a skill and you don't have any dots in it, right? You would use the attribute, just the attribute that applies to it, right, as your dice pool. However, you can see in the parentheses under
3
mental,
3
physical, or
minus
social,
Mm-hmm.
that's the penalty you'll take to your dice pool if you use it unskilled. That's pretty simple. As you're constructing your character, you'll also get things called specialties. You'll start out with 3. And that's what those blanks are for next to the skills. They're basically like a tag that you put onto something. Like academics, archaeology, or occult,
Specific kind.
specific weird shit, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And when,
Rituals.
if you're using that skill and it happens, this speciality, this tag happens to apply, you get an extra dice. Because it's in your wheelhouse. You get the 1 extra dice. So instead of intelligence 3 and computer 1, if you're good at computer like
Hacking.
AutoCAD or
Ooh,
hacking
yeah.
or something, yeah, then you would get that extra die in addition to what you would regularly get. Right? Let's see. Now,
Unix, I can do this.
Now, willpower over here on the right, where health, willpower, and integrity. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Willpower is something that you can spend to add 3 dice to any pool, or you can add 2 to the trait you're using to resist something. Right, like your defense, your resolve, stamina, composure, whatever that may be. You can essentially buff your defense, or you can add to your pool. Right. You can spend 1 point per action, right? So you can't, spend multiple points of willpower on a single thing. Now you may be wondering, okay, I probably start with some willpower. That makes sense, right? how do I get it back if I use it? You don't. No, that's actually you do get it back. The way that you get it back is by playing to your character's virtue and vice. Now, at the top here, you can see virtue and vice, right? Virtue is the thing that you identify as at your best as a human being, right? You are loyal, you are just, you are compassionate, you are ambitious, you are whatever that thing may be, right? It's an adjective that describes you in some way, or your character in some way, right? And whenever you play to that strength, you intentionally make choices that play to that virtue, you'll get a point of willpower back.
They often link with the 7 godly virtues.
Previously in the old
Yeah.
like the last version of this system, the New World of Darkness, before they turned it into the Chronicles of Darkness,
They were hearts.
they were like the virtues and the
Charity,
7 deadly sins, right?
Yep.
Okay.
It's a little broader than that now.
Yeah.
It's meant to be more sort of open and kind of cinematic in that way. So the vices are exactly the same way. It's the thing that gives you temporary comfort and allows you to avoid whatever problems or feelings. Like, it's the thing that you indulge in, and you know it's a shit thing to do, but it's just something that you feel compelled to do, right? Maybe ambitious is a vice for you as opposed to a virtue. Maybe you can't help but compete, and it causes you problems. Maybe you're just envious or greedy or whatever. Like you're sardonic, whatever that may be. There aren't any. There are a couple of ones that they suggest, but there aren't there isn't a set list. You just come up with that descriptor, right? And it's got to be something that good is not a very good virtue to have, because that's so
broad.
It's so broad, and it's a statement of morality. Now, compassionate is a good one, right? Because that doesn't mean necessarily that you're good. A bad guy can be compassionate. You see what I'm saying? So it's just like a personality characteristic rather than a statement of morality, right? And when you intentionally play to your vice, you also get a point of willpower. So those are two ways with kind of moral threads attached to them that you can get willpower back. That influences you to play your character as you've sort of conceived it, right? Described it. And that's how you would get willpower back during the course of the game, right? So,
It's always the hardest things to choose in the red market.
in creating a character, let's go ahead and go through that. Now, at the bottom, there's a little string of text just below the dash that tells you the amount of dots or whatever the formula is for the attribute you're trying to figure out, right? So let's start right away at the top. Figure out name, age, player, right? Who are you going to play? Have an idea of the character that you want to be firmly in your mind. Now, I will say there are two stipulations here because of the kind of game that we're running. We're not doing Vampire the Requiem or Promethean whatever.
First Man?
Werewolf the Forsaken, whatever. Those like specific supernatural games where you're playing supernatural characters. You're playing mortal characters, okay? So the first stipulation is the person has to conceivably exist in the real world, right? So instead of like capital H heroes or like,
Yeah, I'm a workplace hero.
you're not like a ninja assassin. You're not a
Weekend Warrior.
You're more likely a nurse, or you're a construction worker, or an exotic dancer, or a professor.
Document delivery person.
You're a UPS guy. You're all the you're whatever is conceivably a real life figure. Right.
Uber driver.
Now, obviously, do hitmen
half.
exist in real life?
Yes.
Yes. Do career criminals, drug dealers, like all those things exist in real life? They're far less likely to show up in what is a real world scenario, right? So So generally speaking, tend a little bit safer than you expect. Don't go so out there, like
The setting will do that for you.
the setting will sort of massage that, right? So don't come in here thinking that you're gonna like dual wield Uzis and like leap from you're gonna be like some weird urban vigilante and like using a grapnel gun and firing whilst soaring through the air, right?
Upside down.
Two
It's
guns.
not that
Well,
kind of game.
You're not Batman and you're not Blade.
It's more in line with mainline Call of Cthulhu stuff, right? Where you're sort of you're a relatively.
But I can't be Wesley Snipes.
I don't want to say mundane because that puts certain connotations on it, but regular people coming to an awareness of like supernatural shit happening around you, right?
You're people who are about to have one hell of a day.
Right. And based on that day, their life changes in a considerable way. Maybe they become like supernatural hunters, and there's a whole game line called Hunter that explores that. And regular people who like take on the business of monster hunting, right?
Maybe you end up dead and come back as a ghost from Geist.
Right, and you would be in the Geist line of books, or you'd be bitten by a vampire. Now we're in Vampire the Requiem. So you see how that works? So that's the first stipulation. Just a normal-ass person. The second stipulation is, whatever character you're going to pick, it needs to be conceivable that you would live in a decent apartment complex in Chicago. So, not on the street, not in a McMansion, somewhere in a decent apartment complex. And when I say decent, I mean, have you ever seen the movie Candyman? Remember that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Remember the sort
bars on the
of
window?
the projects over there, like I think it's called Cook Brady Green.
Yeah.
That's an actual place in Chicago that used to be like that. Not that, but also not these sort of palatial, like grand apartments that are entire floors and have these lofts and everything like that. Think about the kind of apartment that you've seen in every like ABC funded white privilege sitcom where like, let's go over to the guy's apartment. Oh, it's a nice apartment. Thanks for I'm gonna sit on your couch.
And you're sitting there trying to figure out how the fuck they actually afford that with what they do.
How did
Right.
the friends from Friends afford? How?
I don't know.
Honestly,
Sorry, tangent.
the apartment from Friends maybe shaved down a little bit. I mean that's a good.
Yeah,
It's
It's
big,
a really big.
but that's a good like baseline, right? So you're talking about like what the average, like
Joe Schmo.
Joe Schmo, upper middle class, but strongly
It's
middle
Chicago.
class. That's true.
I mean, for that size apartment in Chicago, that might be
Yeah.
upper middle class.
Because part of the setup for this particular scenario is that you're all living in Chicago, and you all happen to be living in the same apartment building. Okay. So we need to have a kind of common thread of. It makes sense for all of you to live in this apartment complex.
Who's the noisy person who lives above another character?
Who has the broom? And is-
And who's making the noise?
Until our kid.
right. So that is,
Who's staying up at 3 in the morning?
so that's those are the two things to keep
That
in
might be
mind as you're putting your character concept together. Once you do that, pick two kind of adjective words for your virtue and your vice. Right. Now your concept can be like 2 or 3 words that say who you are. Right. Like struggling author is an example of a concept. Right. You can put that down to just kind of remind you of like just brass tacks what the character is. And then you can ignore this right-hand side here, basically. I mean, Chronicle is the thing that we're doing. You can put Chicago Workings on there. But faction and group name aren't really important right now because you're not playing a supernatural character where that things like clans and or organizations and everything like that would be important to you. I'll be right back.
Until our kid. Good night.
The 5-3-4 is that stat block and not like across.
Vertical. Yep. Because it then breaks those down where it's like the farthest left is mental, and you're looking at your mental power, your mental finesse, your mental resistance.
Yep.
Then physical stats, and then social stats or attributes. And then when it does the breakdown for skills, you can order those as you would like under skills. They don't have to match up perfectly.
Yep.
Like I've done one where I've got stronger social attributes. Actually, I might flip those, but I was originally thinking of doing stronger social attributes and then a weaker social skill. Then after looking at social skills, I'm like, nah, I'm not going to use as many mental. So I flipped those. But yeah, they do tend to coincide when you're designing characters, but they do not have to.
Yeah, so as Stephen was saying earlier, you can see at the bottom it says attributes 5, 4, 3. So you're going to pick a column that represents your primary focus, your secondary focus, and then I think the word is tertiary focus, right? So the notion is like, I want to be good at mental tasks, right? So I'm going to pick this left-hand column, intelligence, wits, and resolve, and I'm going to put 5 dots in that. That's going to be my primary. And what that means is that I can put 2 dots in intelligence and 2 dots in wits and 1 in resolve. Or I can put 3 in intelligence and 1 in resolve and 1 in wits. You see how that works? You can distribute those 5 dots however you want amongst those 3 attributes in that column. Does that make sense? Okay. And then the next one, you would say, okay, well, I want my secondary column to be social now. So I'll put 4 dots in that. I'll put 2 in presence and 2 in composure. Now I'm done. Then 3 dots. Put that in the last column. I'll put 1 in strength and 2 in stamina. There you go. I'm done. And that's it. That's simple. Skills work the same way. Now at the bottom you can see 11, 7, and 4. And again, these are choices you're making based on your character concept. Like, does it make sense for your guy to be, to have the occult skill or the firearms skill or what have you, right? So you would say, okay, I want to be particularly good at physical skills. I'm going to put 11 dots in those. And you pick your skills. I mean, you don't have to, lock them in. What I'm saying is, you just distribute dots however you want in that little column, the little section, right? And then the next one, you would say, okay, I want to be... social will be my next one. You'll put 7 dots in that. And then the last one will be mental for me, right? I'll put 4 dots in that. And that's it. It works pretty much exactly the same way as the attributes does. It's just that it's orientated a little differently, right?
Okay, about the attributes, the first dot's filled in. Do you add on to that?
Yes, you do add on to the dots that are already there, because 1 is like the base. You're a human being, so you have at least this capability.
So it's 5 dots to add, not necessarily
Total.
Yeah, it's 5 dots to add. These are the dots you're adding in. You're drawing in. Yeah. Because 2 dots in a thing. Let's just talk about attributes. 2 dots in an attribute is average human capability, right? Okay. If that gives you an idea of what these dots mean, right? 2 is average, 3 is pretty good, 4 is exceptional, and then 5 is you're the best in the world at that thing. And that applies to skills too, right? 2 dots means you could do it in a professional setting, right? 1 dot means you're a hobbyist or an amateur, you're a dilettante, right? 3 is pretty good, you've got exceptional training. 4 is even better than that, and then 5 is you're the best in the world at that thing. If that gives you a sense of scale, right? So once you distribute all those dots, then you can see how things start to add together, right? So if I wanted to do hacking, I would take my intelligence and add that to my computer skill, and I would get the amount of dots, and that would translate into the number of dice to roll. It's that simple. Now, the place where things are going to get a little bogged down, just because I don't have a physical copy of the book, is picking merits, which think of them as feats. I mean, that's the closest analog, right? At the bottom, it says merits 7. That's how many dots you have to spend on merits. And the merits range in cost from 1 dot to 5 dots, for instance. Here's an example of a merit. Danger sense costs 2 dots. So you would have 5 left out of the 7, right? You would gain a +2 modifier on reflexive wits plus composure rolls for your character to detect an impending ambush. So, so your spidey sense tingles, right? And what it means by a reflexive roll is that you're not spending an action to do it. It's just like, it's a thing you can do. In the sense that, like, you don't have to declare, like, in D&D, if you're making a perception roll, that doesn't clear your turn. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's literally the only thing I'm doing this round. It's reflexive. It's like, oh, I see. Oh,
I'm
just
looking at stuff.
You're just looking at stuff, right? Defending yourself, for instance, is a reflexive action, right? Applying your defense as a negative modifier to a guy's attacker's pool, right? That's a reflexive thing. You don't have to spend your action to do that. So basically you'll pick out, and there are mental merits, there are physical merits, social merits, all that stuff. And that's all, based on your character concept, what you want. Right? Now some of them have prerequisites, like feats would in D&D, right? Like, for fast reflexes, fast reflexes is an example of where you can buy multiple levels of it. Does that make sense? You could spend 1 dot to get fast reflexes 1, which would add 1 initiative. Add 1 to your initiative number, right? You could then spend 2 dots to buy fast reflexes 2. I'm sorry, you would spend another dot to buy fast reflexes 2, which would give you 1, 2 added to your initiative. You see what I'm saying?
But
you
that's still
buy
a 2 cost, not 3.
Yes. I think so, yes.
Yeah. It's
1 per.
Yeah, it's when you're leveling a character up and you're looking at like extra buys. Usually you're buying up to that rank, but I don't remember how it works with merits.
I'm not too locked into like the specific economy of that. But fast reflexes has a prerequisite where, like, you have to have at least 3 dots in wits or dexterity, which makes sense because wits is your like quick thinking kind of problem solving reaction stuff.
CPU speed.
And then dexterity is, obviously, how fast you can move, right?
Finesse.
Yeah, that's why it's in the finesse row, right? Wits, dexterity, manipulation, like fine control, as opposed to power and then resistance. That's why those rows are there to kind of help you make sense of how these are related to each other, right? And then the rest of it is just figuring out, based on what you've filled out, the dots you filled out, what your derived attributes are, like what your health is, what your willpower is starting at. Your size, you're an adult human being, so it'd be like 5. Size is 5 for all the adults. Your defense would be the equations are at the bottom, so it's pretty simple to figure that out. And then once you figure out those, you add those together and do your derived attributes: size, speed, defense, your initiative mod, all that stuff. That's basically it.
Nice and straightforward.
Oh, it's also a good idea to go ahead and put down 3 aspirations for your character, because fulfilling those aspirations helps you get experience, right? In the form of what they call beats. And what that equates to is something specific and tangible that you can accomplish.
Fulfillable.
You remember we were doing the Stars Without Number thing, and it was like you're talking about a goal that you could accomplish reasonably within a handful of sessions. It wasn't like become immortal. It was like, find the scientist who previously worked on the immortality formula. See, that's something that's like...
SMART goals.
Yeah.
Learn about the flesh bags.
Now I can't remember
Right, exactly, yeah.
what SMART stands for.
So when you complete those things, right? And they're story hooks, basically. That's what you're putting in there to really keep your character active and connected to other people, other characters, that sort of thing. When you complete those, you will get a beat. And if you get 5 beats, you get 1 experience point. And basically that's a dot to spend for something. And we don't have to worry about that right now.
That is different from what I'm used to. That's nice, actually.
And there's a whole list of, like, it costs this many experience points to purchase a dot and an attribute, or whatever. Like, there's a table for that. So that's something you don't need to worry about right now. Now, I guess the other thing to talk about would be integrity. Right? You can see integrity there on the sheet, just below willpower. Now, integrity is like your mental okayness, or in some cases, your spiritual okayness. Right? Does that make sense? The idea is that you can only encounter the supernatural so much before it starts to do bad things to you, just as a life experience. When you experience something that would put you at what they term a breaking point, and we'll figure out what those are for your characters after you're done sort of putting everything together. You're going to have to do a check, right, to see how well you handle it, right? It's similar to the way when the Call of Cthulhu has kind of like sanity checks, right? So
It's like weights and composure.
it is resolve and composure,
There we go.
and then a modifier based on your current integrity, which I'll tell you, and then any modifiers of circumstance. Now, an example of that is killing a person in self-defense would be a -4 modifier to resisting this breaking point, because that's a very traumatic experience. If you're acting to protect yourself, that's +1. See? Because you're sort of reaffirming your kind of life thing. Protecting a loved one is +2. So that modifies the dice pool that you would roll to try to resist freaking out, basically. And then depending on if you have successes or failures, right? Integrity could go down, and you could gain a condition like broken or spooked, right? Or you could gain simply the condition and not lose any integrity. You know, you're just kind of like freaked out a little bit, but you'll get over it, right? Or if you have an exceptional success, for instance, you'll get a beat, and you'll get a dot of willpower back. Because you're like, fuck that. I'm in charge. You know. And so those are, generally speaking, those are moments when, and we'll figure out, like, I'll ask you some questions, and then based on that, you'll say, okay, my character would respond to that this way. And that will give you an idea of what your breaking point is, right? You would perform an action that either violates your personal moral code or is unacceptable to society. You would witness something traumatic, terrifying, or something that rattles your understanding of the world, right? Or you're a victim of a supernatural attack, whether that is physical, emotional, mental, whatever, right? Those are the three general kind of instances when you're going to check to see if your breaking point breaks, right? Let's see. I think that's all.
It's a pretty straightforward system.
It really is.
Really nice.
There are a good bit of moving parts, but they all have to kind of streamline themselves to being like, create the pool, roll the pool. Successes, great. No successes, sorry. Like that's basically it. And there's still some kind of holdover from the kind of 90s design aesthetic where there's still modifiers. There's still like the occasional thing where, like, you know, depending on there's like finer rules for like resisting being electrocuted to death, or, you know, you're falling, you know, like how many meters are you falling and all this stuff like that.
We're breaking out the chart.
There's an example of like there's a chart for that. Thankfully, it's very few and far between. But let's see. Okay, so you did your attributes, you did your skills. Then it's time to pick merits. So let me give you a list of.
What do you pick for specialties? I missed.
Oh yes, you have three.
Sorry.
You have 3 specialties, and then Those, like I said, those are tags basically that are an example. Like a specialty in academics would be English literature,
Okay.
law, research, just plain research.
So they're just words you get to put next to
They're tags basically. Like computers, a specialty, you could have hacking, data retrieval, programming. Crafts would be carpentry, sculpting, welding. Investigation, cryptography, riddles, dreams. Medicine, first aid, pharmacology, surgery. You see what I'm saying? There's sort of narrower applications. And for some skills, they make perfect sense. Like science is the divisions of science, right? You can pick biology, chemistry, genetics. Now, something like, let's say, drive, for instance, may be a little harder to figure out the specialty for if you wanted to take one. But the ones they offer are evasion, motorcycles, piloting. So you're not talking about cars necessarily. Racing, also stunts. Maybe you're a stunt driver.
Yeah.
the specialties have to be in like the one you put the most.
No,
Gotcha.
specialties are when you just pick 3 skills and you
Okay.
put specialties in those 3
So
skills.
what if my character took some fucking self-defense because she's a woman living alone in Chicago? Would that be like under brawl?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for instance, brawl, blocking, boxing, grappling, Muay Thai, throws.
Okay.
So like you could put
Ooh,
karate in
throws.
there, or
Sure.
judo, or
Krav Maga.
or Krav
Probably,
Maga.
it would just be like fucking self-defense. So like no.
Well, that's a
weapon
little
kick
that's a
people.
little broad.
Is it too broad? Okay.
Try to, if you can narrow it down, that's the ideal. Like self-defense, like is an umbrella that covers a lot of different
Yeah.
approaches, right? But something like boxing or karate
Okay. I see.
would be more appropriate because that's a specific thing.
Set of skills.
I'd
Specific
like to
set of
put one in weaponry, but I don't know what the weapons are.
Melee.
They're
Is that like the melee weapon?
I think it breaks down into like bladed clubs.
well, there are firearms, right?
It's not firearms; it's weaponry.
Yeah.
Oh, so you just want to go to weaponry. That's what I thought you were talking about, the general weaponry.
Shoot bang.
So weaponry is basically covering like basically hand-to-hand weapons.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I thought.
Clubs, knives, swords, improvised weapons could be a specialty. Here's an example of some melee weapons.
good old beer
I have a
bottle.
chart back here. Rapier, chain, a tire iron, crowbar.
Chain.
Classy.
Jane, she's a bike messenger, so yeah.
Sure.
Just rip it off
knuckles.
of your bike.
That is
Somebody
that
with
is
it.
so bad for your bike, man.
No, I was actually talking about the chain
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you chain it up
I
with.
know.
Aw. It's more fun to think about the other one.
But the other ones, yeah, that
And they're greasy.
That's for like when you've been like pinned down and they know that you usually wrap your hand in a chain, so you just grab your bike chain
yeah.
to as
I
like
mean,
the
when it comes
surprise
down
check.
to it, it comes down to it.
Like, use what you got, yeah.
Yeah.
Naturally, ranged weapons cover modern-day firearms, right? Revolvers, pistols, submachine guns, rifles, assault rifles, shotguns. There's even a crossbow listed here because monster hunters love crossbows. I guess.
It's a trigger mechanism.
It's
It's,
just a gun.
close enough to a gun.
But anyway, again, the assumption is that this game is taking place in the modern day. It's 2018. It's the real world. So you can't really just walk around with your submachine guns. It's not really how that works.
Well, especially not Chicago.
You're not in Chicago. Well, you have to have a particularly good open
Yeah.
carry license for. You know what I mean? Like,
If you're in Dakota, any of the Dakotas, I'll believe you. If you're in
just walk around the
Chicago,
woods.
that's like
Oh,
a hidden pistol that you probably shouldn't have on
For
you.
streetwise, would info gathering be good?
Streetwise.
Under social.
That might be a little broad.
I'm trying to think of how to fit persuasion.
Here's an example of the things they offer for Streetwise. Black market, gangs, navigation, rumors,
I'm taking navigation.
undercover work.
There we go. For Streetwise.
Because Streetwise, I mean, one of the functions of it would be info gathering, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if you could target, like, for instance, who you're gathering the information from, or more specifically, how you're getting that information,
Okay.
that would be a better
Yeah,
specialty.
okay. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like a
For instance, you could get
see.
the word on the street just by adding manipulation and streetwise together.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a function of streetwise.
My character concept is like an advertising, like analytics agent. So how could I fit like a persuasion specialty with that? In like
jeez.
knowing how to like target people's wants and desires.
That kind of like pushing people.
I put high
Well,
manipulation. I have like
sales
4.
pitch is pretty good.
Literally, one of the sample specialties for persuasion is sales pitches. So,
Boom, you nailed it.
I mean, that.
There you go.
Also, there is fast talking, inspiring, seduction is one of them. Sermons, is one of
Fast talk is a classic.
them. You know, again, specific ways that you're doing the thing.
I guess I'll go sales pitch, even though I don't know how useful that might be.
So you went with like fine art for your academics.
Is that bad?
I guess sales.
Are you
pitch
talking
would
about
be
just-
pretty
just-
She's like a fucking painter, is what I'm.
Well, then
thinking.
I would put painting there specifically.
I put that under crafts.
Okay, well then you could do
Yeah, because for
Visual
academics
art?
that makes
Does that make
Visual
sense?
art. Okay.
something a little finer.
Or art history.
Art history would be great. Yeah, that's a great example.
I just
yeah.
didn't know if I could fit on the line. That's what I was thinking.
I know the lines are not particularly generous, but that's just the way that the sheet is designed. It's not my favorite sheet in the world, but there you go.
It is what it is.
So let me go to the merits here.
I'd like to know some merits around athletics.
And the merits, well, I guess we have 7 points.
You have
from
7
it.
dots,
Seven
and I'll tell you
points.
what the costs of the merits are, basically.
Remember, some of the classics you get are things like allies or like friends in high places.
Yeah, social merits you can like buy relationships with people, basically, or you can.
Those can be really cool when it's like, yeah, I know like a police officer. That's like maybe a 2 rank ally. Bump that up to 3, and it's like, oh, you know, a like precinct. Bump it
Yeah,
up to
that's
4.
literally
You
the-
know the DA.
Yeah, I mean,
Bump it up to
climbing up the
5.
social chain,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
So
It's neat how they built that in.
for physical merits, we've got ambidextrous, automotive genius, crack driver, demolisher, double jointed.
What's that one?
Double jointed. It requires a dexterity of 3.
Okay, skip that.
Okay.
Well, no, I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, go for it.
And we're double jointed. Double jointed requires a dexterity of 3 dots at least. Right? Your character might have been a contortionist or spent time practicing yoga. She can dislodge joints when need be. She automatically escapes from any mundane bonds without a roll. When grappled, subtract her dexterity from any rolls to overpower her, as long as she's not taking any aggressive actions.
Neat.
How much does that one cost?
It costs 2 dots.
Oh, we'll
So you'd have 5
Not
left.
bad, yeah. Pretty average.
Continuing on, fleet of foot.
What's that one? That one I'm interested
It requires an athletics of 2.
in. Nailed it.
Your character's remarkably quick and runs far faster than their frame suggests. He gains +1 speed per dot
Okay.
that you buy. You can go
you
up to
buy.
3. Like you can get fleet of foot 1, 2, 3. Right. And anyone pursuing him suffers a -1 per dot to any foot chase rolls.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm grabbing that because I'm kind of doing a parkour person.
Okay, so
Yeah, I'm doing that too.
you got fleet of foot at 2, which means you get
Yep.
a +2 to speed and -2 to people chasing you.
So you can do as many as you have in athletics, right?
Oh no, the you can go.
Up to 3.
A fleet of foot goes from 1 to 3, so you can buy 1, 2.
So you
or
can
3.
buy 3. Okay.
You can buy 3 if you want, yeah. But you couldn't buy fleet of foot 4 because it only goes from 1 to
Yep.
3.
That's just balancing for the system.
Right, yeah. There's giant is a physical merit.
Is there the opposite of that?
I think so, yes.
All right, tell me about being small.
Small framed. It costs 2 dots.
Okay.
Your character's diminutive. He's not 5 feet, and it's easy to walk into him without noticing. He's size 4, and thus has 1 fewer health box.
Go on.
He gains +2 to any rolls to hide or go unnoticed. And this bonus might apply anytime being smaller would be an advantage, such as crawling through smaller spaces. That merit is obviously only available with character creation. Because you can't suddenly cut off your ankles. These
Get
Can't shrink it.
prosthetics.
I suddenly got real short.
There's also a drawback.
And a
In,
calcium
in
deficiency.
addition to the lower health, because you lose a box,
Mm-hmm.
your character might be overlooked or not taken seriously by some people.
Fair enough.
Let me go back a little bit. Hardy, Greyhound, Iron Stamina,
Greyhound?
Parkour.
Parkour. I literally have that as a specialty.
Okay, do you have Dexterity of 3?
I'm going to fix
Soon.
that then.
I
To
will.
buy the
Give me a
Parkour merit,
moment.
you'll need a
Yep.
Dexterity of 3 and an Athletics of 2.
Done. Fixed.
So there are 5 different subsets of this. Like they have specific names in this case.
Okay.
For 1 dot, you can buy Flow, which means when in a foot chase, subtract your parkour from the successes needed to pursue or evade. Also, ignore environmental penalties to athletic rolls equal to your parkour rating.
Okay.
So if you would get a -2 penalty, if you had a parkour rating of 2, it wouldn't matter. Cat Leap would be 2 dots.
So that's separate from from flow.
Yeah, these are all subsections. of
Ah,
parkour.
okay,
So
okay.
This is how many. This is
How
what
this
you would
breaks out. Okay.
Yeah.
How many in total so I can think about redoing
It's 1 to
something like
5.
that? Got it. I think I can probably sneak these in.
So Cat Leap 2.
Drop fleet of foot.
When using a dexterity plus athletics roll to mitigate damage from falling, that's one way to do that, your character gains 1 automatic success. Additionally, add your parkour rating to the threshold of damage that can be removed through this roll. So you can absorb more damage. Right? Parkour will not mitigate damage from a terminal velocity fall. Which is like more than 30 meters,
Yeah.
right? You're just going to take damage. That's it. Sorry.
If you fall off the rooftop,
You will be
that's
road
it.
pizza.
Mhm.
3 dots gets you Wall Run. When climbing, your character can run upward for some distance before having to traditionally climb. Without rolling, your character scales 10 feet plus 5 feet per dot of athletics as an instant action, rather than the normal 10 feet. Then there's Expert Tracer for 4 dots. By spending a willpower point, you may designate 1 athletics roll to run, jump, or climb as a rote action. What that means is that you re-roll all failed dice once.
Nice.
On any turn during which you use this ability, you can't apply your character's defense to oncoming attacks.
Makes sense.
That's the drawback.
You're just in the zone.
And then Free Flow, which is the maxed out 5 dot. Your character's parkour is now muscle memory. She can move without thinking in a zen-like state. The character must successfully meditate in order to establish free flow. And there is a meditating mechanic. It's very simple. But once established, your character is capable of taking athletics actions reflexively once per turn. By spending a point of willpower on an athletics roll in a foot chase, gain 3 successes instead of 3 dice. So
You
you're
said
real.
there was one for Crack Driver, right?
Rebalance.
Crack Driver. Mhm.
Yeah, let's do that.
Crack Driver, you can either pay 2 or 3 dots. There are 2 different versions, right?
Okay.
Do you have a drive of at least 3?
I have a drive of 4.
Okay, good. Your character's an ace at the wheel, and nothing shakes his concentration, so long as he's not taking any actions other than driving and keeping the car safe. Add his composure to any rolls to drive. Any rolls to disable his vehicle suffer a penalty equal to his composure as well. With the 3-dot version, once per turn, he may take a drive action reflexively. So if we were down into sort of like the micro scale, we were figuring out who's doing what per turn. You could do a drive action reflexively and do a regular action. That makes sense.
I'm not sure that's what I want to do.
So you can be all Hollywood and drive and shoot somebody.
out of the window. So there's quick draw. These are all
Really, it's
physical merits
lassoing
right now.
something and then, clotheslining with the chain.
Relentless. So Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
Seizing the edge. Sleight of hand.
What's relentless?
Relentless. Your character will not stop running, whether away from a pursuer or toward prey.
It's not her.
just running away.
It's Friday the 13th, so that's
We already
one
did
that is
small prey,
considerable.
so. And then Stunt Driver. and that's when it goes to from 1 to 4, and that depends on. That's a style merit, so it's like. What that means is that each dot gives you access to another. Each maneuver is a prerequisite for the next in a sequence, right? So you'd have to buy 1, and then 2, and then 3, and if you just couldn't go straight to 4. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So that's all the physical merits. We also have mental and social merits. Whatever you want to hear.
I will need mental.
Mental merits.
Fucking painter. I need the mental ones, please. Thank you.
Go to your
Avoid
mind
depression.
Existential angst. Is there one?
I like drop mental, so maybe I want a mental merit.
Translating emotion
Good.
To canvas.
Yeah.
So, area of expertise, which allows you to... you basically pick a specialty and you get +2 instead of +1 dice when that applies. You're uncommonly specialized in that area.
What is that for?
Mental.
That's a mental merit. Area of expertise. You purchase 1 dot that costs 1. You have to have a resolve of at least 2, and obviously you have to pick a skills specialty, right? And so basically what that means is that your specialty will give you 2 extra dice instead of 1 when it applies.
I have no mental specialties.
Then there's common sense.
And that only applies to one skill, not all of your specialties?
Only one specific skill specialty.
I love how common sense is a merit.
Common sense. Danger sense, as I mentioned earlier. Direction sense. Eidetic memory, which is exactly what it sounds like. Encyclopedic knowledge. Eye for the strange.
Yeah, let me hear that.
Do you have a resolve of 2 and an occult of 1?
I don't have anything in occults. No.
Okay, you don't get to hear
I
it.
want to hear
I
it.
don't
I want
get
to
it.
hear it, though.
Oh, you want to hear it?
Do you
None
want
for me.
one in a cult?
While your character does not necessarily possess a breadth of knowledge about the supernatural, she knows the otherworldly when she sees it. By perusing evidence, she can determine whether something comes from natural or supernatural origins. So here's the mechanic how that works. Roll intelligence plus composure. With a success, the storyteller must tell you if the scene has a supernatural cause, and provide one piece of found information that confirms that answer. With an exceptional success, the storyteller must give you a bit of supernatural folklore that suggests what type of creature caused the problem. If the problem was mundane, an exceptional success gives an ongoing +2 to all rolls to investigate the event due to her redoubled certainty in its natural causation.
How many points is that?
That costs 2 dots, and you need a resolve of 2 and an occult of 1.
I'll do that.
Eye for the strange. Fast reflexes is one. Good time management is one.
No. What does that do?
When taking an extended action, which is something that requires a certain number, it's like a skill. You remember the skill tests from 4E, right?
Yeah.
You had to get a certain number of successes before you did it. When taking an extended action, that's what the extended action is. Have the time required between rolls, so you could check more often to get.
What was that called?
Good time management.
Good time management. And that just costs 1.
It costs 1 dot. It requires academics 2 or science 2.
Or science 2?
Yeah.
What
Where
was the one
you will,
before
like-
that?
Fast reflexes.
Reflexes.
Fast reflexes. It requires wits of 3 or dexterity of 3.
Okay.
You can purchase fast reflexes 1, 2, or 3. You get 1 plus 1 initiative per dot. So if you bought fast reflexes 1, you'd get plus 1 initiative.
Okay.
Makes
Yeah,
sense?
that's right.
I would
Go
choose
over
that.
there.
Always fast to react. Indomitable.
What's that?
Anytime a supernatural creature uses a power to influence your character's thoughts or emotions, add 2 dice to the pool to contest it. If the roll is resisted, you would instead subtract 2 dice from the monster's pool, right, to figure out if they did it. This only affects mental influence and manipulation from a supernatural origin. A vampire with a remarkable manipulation plus persuasion score is just as likely to convince your character to do something using mundane tricks, as opposed to a supernatural power.
Okay. How much does that cost?
It costs 2 dots, and it requires a resolve of 3.
Okay.
Interdisciplinary specialty. Investigative aid.
What's that one?
Your character has one particular knack that could contribute amazingly to an investigation. Choose a skill when purchasing this merit. When making rolls to uncover clues, and there's like an investigation system in the game where you can like gain clues. And, she achieves exceptional success on 3 successes instead of 5. As well, clues that come from her use of that skill start with 1 additional element. And that's
Part of the system.
sort of, because of this particular system, I mean, this scenario, that's kind of, I'm hand-waving that. It's not really important to engage with it in that way. And you can purchase that merit multiple times to enhance different skills. Right. Investigative prodigy. Language. I mean,
What is the prodigy one?
Instead of simply uncovering clues or not uncovering clues when investigating, your character discovers multiple clues in a single action. Your character can uncover clues equal to his successes or his merit dots as an instant action, whichever is lower. And again, I'm not... To be fair, you probably shouldn't take that merit because I'm not really engaging in the investigation. It feels clunky to me. It's much easier for me to go, this, you learned this.
You learn to think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Language, library, if you really want to go full Call of Cthulhu. Meditative mind, multilingual, patient, professional training, tolerance for biology.
What's
Is that like
what's professional training and tolerance for biology?
Is it like used to cutting people open kind of thing?
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Biology.
Professional training.
Dying, please wait.
Please don't die.
Loading death. When choosing this merit, choose or create a profession for your character. Mark the 2 asset skills that are... And there's a table of like some professions and stuff.
Okay.
Mark the 2 asset skills on your character sheet, and the advantages of professional training relate directly to those skills. If you purchased 1 dot in professional training, you'd have networking. Your character builds connections within her chosen field. Take 2 dots of contacts relating to that field. If you bought 4 dots of professional training, you would have on-the-job training, which means that you would take a skill dot in an asset skill, and whenever you purchase a new asset skill dot, you would take a beat. You got access to extensive educational tools and mentorship. And there's like 5 different levels of that. Tolerance for biology is exactly what you think it is. When other characters must resist shock or physical repulsion from the disgusting and morbid, your character stands her ground. You do not need to make composure, stamina, or resolve rolls to withstand the biologically strange. Doesn't mean you're immune to fear. Just means you're used to nature in all its nasty forms, is what it says.
But supernatural nasty. That's a new thing.
How much does that cost? That sounds fun.
It costs 2 dots, and it requires a resolve of 3.
I have those requirements.
there you go.
It's that person who's
Let's
like
see.
the 3 people lined up looking at the body. One of them's like, "Huh?" The other one's like throwing up in the corner. The other person's like, "What's that there?"
Huh. That's interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Trained observer.
Okay.
I am an artist. Just read that
Well,
one
what's-
to me.
Do you have a
For
wits or a
detail.
composure of 3?
I have
Yes.
2. No. I'm an
Okay.
artist. I don't
So
have
you can
composure.
purchase either 1 dot or 3 dots.
Fair.
You see how that works? You can buy 1 or 3. Anytime you make a perception roll, which is almost always wits plus composure to notice something, right? You benefit from the 9 again quality. See what I'm saying?
And that's for the first point, and then 3 is probably 8.
3 is you get 8 again. Yeah.
And that's, what was that called?
Trained observer.
Trained.
1 dot or 3 dots. And again, you have 7 dots total to spend on your merits.
Because I still need dots.
Vice-ridden is one of them.
How's that an
let's hear
exploit?
that.
Vice-ridden costs 2 dots. You have 2 vices,
Ooh.
although you may still only regain 1 willpower per scene in which you indulge yourself. But the notion is that you have more opportunities to gain willpower because you have more vices.
So it's a benefit.
Virtuous is exactly the same thing, but from the opposite side. Right? Costs 2 dots. You have 2 virtues. Blah blah. So those were all the mental merits.
Let's hear some social ones.
Social. I'm sorry. Like I said, this is the part that's going to take a while because I don't have the copy of the book. Because you can only get it from like Drive-Thru RPG or RPG Now or something. You have to have it printed and then shipped to you over the course of like a calendar year. So, allies, as Stephen mentioned, where depending on the number of dots you're paying, it represents the layer of influence in the group, right? Alternate identity. Depending on the dots, 1, 2, or 3, that's the amount of scrutiny that this alternate identity holds up to. Anonymity. Again, that's 1 dot to 5 dots. And that's... They would suffer... The person trying to find you by paper would suffer a penalty per dot purchased in that merit, right?
Hard to track.
You're off the grid, right? Barfly, closed book.
What's barfly? I want to hear that.
There it is.
It requires a socialize of 2.
Socialize. Nope.
I will tell you what it is, however. Rolls to identify that person as an outsider suffer that person's socialize as a penalty. So it's like, no, I'm meant to be here.
I drink here.
You're a natural in the bar environment, is what it says. There's closed book, like I said. Contacts, which, again, depending on the amount of dots you buy in it, gives you a contact of a certain social status, right? In that particular milieu, right?
Yep. That network.
A street level drug dealer or like a drug kingpin, you know, see the difference. There's fame, which, I mean, it does what it says on the tin. Fast talking. That's a style merit, so you have to buy those in order, right? You're upgrading. Fixer. Hobbyist clique.
What does that mean?
Your character is a part of a group of hobbyists that specialize in one area, represented by a skill. It may be a book club, a coven, a political party, or any group brought together by a common interest.
Okay, that makes sense.
Inspiring is one of them.
What's inspiring?
Your character's passion inspires those around her to greatness. With a few words, she can redouble a group's confidence or move them to action.
It sounds like you need like something in presence. Or
You need 3 in presence.
Whew. Okay, that's actually I could do that.
Iron will.
You know, I wanted to hear that one.
Do you have a resolve of 4?
3.
Then you don't get to hear that.
Fine.
It's locked off to you. Please upgrade.
That's okay.
Mentor.
Let me go back through character creation, redo everything.
Mentor is
Just
1 to
forget
5
that.
dots, and it kind of functions in the same way that contacts and allies does, depending on.
But specifically,
A 1 dot mentor might be incapable of dealing with modern society and want to live vicariously through your character.
Jeez. Jesus.
A 5.
Don't want that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking God.
Get out of here.
Please let me not be that.
This is establishing what the mentor wants from your character, right? And then you would choose 3 skills that mentor has, and you would substitute resources for one of those skills. You can ask us, like per session, you can say, "Hey, can you give me a favor? Can you do this for me?" Mystery Cult Initiation, which is just a fun one to read.
Yes, let's hear that.
Okay. It reflects membership in one of these esoteric groups. Secret societies couched in fraternity houses, scholarly cabals studying the magic of classical symbolism,
So Masons.
mystical suicide cults. The dot rating dictates standing. 1 dot's an initiate, 2 a respected member, 3 a priest or organizer, etc., etc.
Until 5, you're literally leading the thing.
And there are some sample cults, but the notion is that you have to you're designing the cult, whatever it is. You start with a purpose, and then you do a relic, and then you do a doctrine.
How much does that cost? And or
1
their
to 5.
It's
prerequisites?
1 to 5, depending on how many. There are no prerequisites.
How high up are
It's
you?
1 to 5, depending on how high you are in the Are you the Grand Dragon, or just an asshole in a hood? You know?
'Cause that's something to put in the back burner of like. Maybe that's how I got into advertising. I'm secretly advertising.
Advertising my cult?
Resources is a social merit, which you can buy from 1 to 5, and it represents your kind of disposable income. Right? What can you get a hold of right now? Like if you had a resources of like 2. You can procure an item at that level or lower once per chapter, which is sort of like the grander, not the scenario, but the chapter, without issue. I don't have to worry about it. I'm just going to go get the thing because I have the money for it. An item 1 availability above your resources reduces your effective resources by 1 dot for a month.
Oof.
You can procure items 2 availability below your resources without limit. So you can get as many of those as you like. For instance, if you had a resources 4, you could get disposable cell phones, which are availability 2. See, that's 2 below. You could get as many as you need. I'm just going to buy 30 disposable cell phones because I can.
Yeah.
Right.
1 for every day.
Pusher.
Ooh.
Retainer.
Well, what is pusher? Is that like...
Is that literally you're pushing drugs on people?
Your character tempts and bribes as
Yep.
second nature.
Yeah.
Sounds like you, buddy.
Yeah.
Please be like a drug dealer who's going into like a high-level corporation type marketing environment.
I will say don't pick that merit because I'm not engaging with this particular system.
Okay.
Fair.
It's to keep things simple.
Yeah.
Light and
But it
smooth.
fits so well.
Yeah, it's so
Because
tempting.
anytime a mark in a social interaction accepts your soft leverage, which is a particular kind of thing you apply, open a door as if you'd satisfied his vice, as well as moving his impression of you up on the chart. You see what I'm saying?
God,
There's
that
a whole
sounds
thing.
tedious.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I think
sounds
in
like a
actual
mini-game,
play it's
actually.
not, but it is.
Yeah.
It's basically a mini game for. It's gamifying social interactions where you can like, okay, this person
like
has a
with
certain
the
number
red
of
market
doors
stuff. Yeah.
that I have to open to
I
get
see.
what I want.
I see.
Right? But they're like metaphorical doors that you're opening with
Uh-huh.
bribery or
Yeah.
flattery
Yeah.
or whatever.
So it's a
Reminds me
lot
of, like,
less. We're gonna have a conversation with the king. I rolled a natural 20. We have a wonderful conversation.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
that's
a lot more-
It's meant to
It's
like
that
stretch
step,
that out.
step
Yeah.
by step,
Yeah.
step by step.
I think it's also meant to help out people who have difficulty like doing
Socializing.
impromptu
Yeah.
dialogue or have conversation with characters, right?
Yeah.
Retainer, which is, I mean, it's what it sounds like.
You have a retainer.
You have an assistant, sycophant, servant, or follower. Safe place. You have somewhere you can go where you feel secure. That's 1 to 5. The retainer is 1 to 5 as well. Small unit tactics. Spin doctor.
Go on. Since Lance isn't asking, I'll do it for him.
These sound like things, but then they're like, well, if we're not doing all of these things.
Spin doctor does engage with the clue system, so that's
Okay.
staff. 1 to 5. You have staff.
Are you upper management?
Housekeepers, designers, research
I was
assistants.
maybe going to put it in the
It specifies animators here, which is fine.
animators.
Status,
Too real.
1 to 5. You have respect, standing, whatever, in a group or organization. Striking looks. That's what it sounds like. Sympathetic.
Yes. What is that?
It costs 2 dots. Your character's very good at letting others get close.
Uh-oh.
This gives him an edge in getting what he wants.
Nope. No.
At the beginning of a social maneuvering attempt, has to do with doors.
No. The door with that.
Table turner.
Is that doors or is that?
Yes.
Yep.
Sad.
Takes.
I can tell a lot of them are like doors.
You're getting the feel.
That's
for
a
it.
clue
Yeah.
one. A taste. You have refined taste and can identify minor details in fashion, food, architecture, and other forms of artistry and craftsmanship.
Nice.
True friend, which is kind of like allies, contacts, retainers, mentors, but there's a different relationship there, right? The storyteller cannot kill her true friend as part of a plot without your express permission.
It's got plot armor.
I mean, you spent points on it. It has plot armor.
And then there's Jason just going, "Fuck your plot armor."
He's now in a coma.
Well, no,
He's
for
not
the
dead.
rules said I couldn't do it.
No, they're just a vegetable now. It's okay.
They're still alive.
They might be alive.
By the way,
They might come back.
there are also supernatural merits.
We won't worry about those yet.
Actually, you can take them now, but there's
There's a bud.
There's some spice.
these merits require the character remain human. So if you wanted to become a supernatural creature
It's
in the course of play, a vampire, a werewolf, a ghost, a whatever,
changeling.
that would go away. You wouldn't keep these merits anymore. They would be gone.
Oh, it would be.
It
It
overwrites.
would be
them.
overridden.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm sure we all want to hear that.
Well, basically, they would be
Curious,
eliminated,
definitely.
and then there's a rule called the sanctity of merits, which means that you'd be able to reapply those dots to something else.
Oh.
But you wouldn't get those specific merits anymore because they're not for you. These merits each have a deeply mystical bent and may not be right for every chronicle.
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Aura reading,
Ugh. I'm sorry.
automatic writing.
That sounds really nice.
I'm going to skip over the ones that are ridiculous for this particular campaign.
Okay.
Why not just tell us for
I mean-
giggles?
Biokinesis,
Thank you.
clairvoyance. That one's okay.
Okay.
Cursed. I don't think we're going to use laying on hands.
Faith healing.
Medium. I can see that working. Mind of a madman.
I am an artist. What does that one mean?
That
Yeah.
could fit, yeah.
Yeah, I want to hear that.
Your character gets deep under the skin of problems. If she's investigating a crime or other phenomenon, she can put herself in the mind of the culprit. This often helps with the case. However, it takes her to a dark place internally.
Fucking artist. It just kind of makes.
Once she's made the
Sometimes you go
choice
dark places.
to sink into the culprit's mindset, which usually involves intense meditation or perusal of the culprit's crimes, she gains 8 again on all rolls to investigate, pursue, and stop the culprit. But once per night, while she sleeps, she dreams about the culprit's crimes and theoretical future crimes. This is intensely traumatic. It drives her further on the hunt. If she spends the day without pursuing the culprit, make a roll to resist degeneration as if she committed the crime herself.
That could be
That's
real
where you
rough.
meet the psychopath words. Crime.
Omen sensitivity.
Hold on. What was that called? I'm just going to pencil
That
it.
was called Mind of a Madman. Omen sensitivity, which you see patterns, you can like interpret things as being like, is that an omen? And that'll force me to basically answer a question about your character's life, surroundings, a task as a yes or no. Right. Numbing touch. I don't know if we're using that one either. Allowing this person to numb a person, rendering them sluggish and incompetent.
No, I was thinking of like the omen. The omen.
The omen, yeah, might be cool.
Psychokinesis, again, that's a little heavy. Psychometry,
Ooh, that's a fun one.
which is, I think, maybe fine. I mean, that's something that like a ghost hunter or a medium could do, and like a History Channel special or something.
Yeah,
You know?
you grab this thing and you learn it.
Oh, I
history.
feel. Oh, yes, this is
There's
belongs
much pain in this object.
to a Jewish lady. Ooh, you know.
Her name's written on the bottom.
Telekinesis is outright. No telekinesis.
Out.
Oh.
No telepathy.
Away.
No thief of fate. That's not good either. Unseen sense, and I think that one's okay too. You have a sixth sense for a type of supernatural creature. You choose it when you buy the merit.
What's the value on that one?
2 dots.
Yeah, I don't think I can squeak that one in.
What was omen reading? What was the
Omen
cost for that?
sensitivity. Omen sensitivity costs 3 dots.
Oh.
Strong though.
What does the madman
Yes, no
thing
question.
cost?
The Mind of a Madman,
Yeah.
2 dots. It requires an empathy of 3.
Empathy of 2. I could totally change my empathy to 3. I was thinking about
Ooh,
it.
that could be neat.
Do you really want this, though?
No, but it sounds really interesting.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah, see, a lot of these sound
pretty
interesting.
strong.
Unless you are willing to commit your character's life to Like-
Yeah, no. But she's a fucking artist.
the really
so-
shitty detective lifestyle.
Right, and she's an artist, so maybe I shouldn't, I guess.
I mean, the nice thing is that's only if you like commit yourself to a specific.
Right.
You do it crime at a time. So
yeah.
as long as you do a little bit of research and you don't, Mind of a Madman, some I don't know, immortal vampire,
Right.
Or
yeah.
Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, or Jack the Ripper who just never died, kind of thing. Then it's not too bad. You get to do the
You
like
just got the Zodiac
TV.
killer. Congratulations.
You get your own TV show like Psych. Well, you're helping people out. I don't know.
Something
It
about a
could be
pineapple. You got a friend.
fun. In every session.
Oh, I got 2 more to spend, and I don't know.
I know.
And I have one more. I was just deciding if I was to do like status or resources or taste.
There are fighting merits as well.
We should
Oh.
probably get somebody with at least like 1 in resources.
That's what I was thinking.
hear
Like,
the
I need
fighting
someone, right?
Fighting
Just a
merits.
little.
These are specific to like combat, right? I mean that makes
I'll
sense.
do one resource and then one
Defense.
one mysterious cult.
What's that?
Armed defense is a style thing, so you got to buy in an order, right? It's 1 to 5. You need a dexterity of 3, a weaponry of 2.
Okay.
You're able to use a weapon to stop people who are trying to kill you. Often deployed by police officers using riot shields or telescoping batons. It's just effective while using a chair leg. So they're
Table League of Truth.
So what
Sorry.
are the levels of that?
Cover the angles. Costs 1 dot. Whenever you take a dodge action, reduce the defense penalties for multiple attackers by 1. You can apply your full defense against the first 2 attacks, and then start to suffer penalties to defend against more than that. Attacks 3rd, 4th, 5th, and so on.
Okay, so as I'm reviewing, quick clarification when you're saying it builds up. Does that mean you're buying your base rank in it? And then you're buying these specialties underneath separately?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, you'd spend 1 dot to buy the first level, and then you have to spend 2 dots to buy the second level. Then you have to spend 3 dots to buy the third level. Yeah.
Like
But
the
you
parkour.
get all the levels that you buy, right?
Yeah, so with parkour, when I get parkour, if I put 2 dots in parkour, I get cat pass, right? Or do I have to buy
Let me
cat
double
pass
check.
as
And
well?
if parkour is a style merit, that would cost 3 because it would be 1 and then 2.
1 and then 2.
Let me double
Okay.
check about parkour. Parkour is a style merit. So if you
Okay.
wanted cat leap and flow, it would be 1 and then 2. So it costs 3 total.
Okay,
See what I'm saying?
parkour for 1.
No.
Which-
Parkour is just the umbrella. Think of it as the
Okay.
umbrella.
And then everything underneath is its own separate thing.
Flow costs 1. Cat leap costs 2. Wall run costs 3.
Okay.
But you can't go straight to wall run. You got to go.
You've got to build down.
But-
Okay.
Okay, I'm thinking
That
about
changes
going
things.
with what we were just talking about, the fence.
Okay.
So
So, yes, hold on. It requires a dexterity of 3, a weaponry of 2, and it says as a prerequisite defensive combat : weaponry.
you have to have the specialty defensive combat.
I think that's what it's trying to say. Yes. I think the words are swapped around. This text isn't terribly great in terms of like typos and stuff. There's a chart in here for vehicles that's just completely wrong. Like all of the column markings should be in the exact fucking whack ass order. You got to change everything around.
Flip it.
Yeah, so if you had the defensive combat specialty in
I can
weapon,
change that if I want. So what can I get for 2 dots?
weak spot. You swing against your opponent's arm rather than his own weapon. Use this ability when defending against an armed attacker. If your defense reduces his attack pool to 0, he's disarmed. If you dodge, you disarm your opponent if your defense roll reduces his attack successes to 0. So if you're dropping the guy down to 0, you're disarming this. Whether it's a proactive thing or you're dodging.
So I get.
That's a style merit, so if you wanted, you'd have to buy the first one.
And then you buy
The second one. So that would
Style.
cost 3 in total, because you have to buy the first one and then the second.
So I could get the first style, which is
Cover the ankles, which is you could apply your full defense against the first 2 attacks rather than the first attack. Because doing full defense against attacks, you take -1 to your die pool every time because you're getting tired, right? You're trying to react.
Too many attacks.
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I think I'll do that. And
Okay, that would
What's it
cost
called?
1 dot. It's armed defense, and then the sub thing is cover the angles. And you remember, you need the defensive combat specialty for weaponry. For other fighting merits, cheap shot.
A classic.
Interested.
what is cheap shot? I made one.
It costs it costs 2. It requires subterfuge at 2, which makes
Oh.
sense. And street fighting at 3.
Nope.
Is street fighting a brawl subset?
I think that's meant to be the text
Okay.
is. It's meant to be a brawl specialty, I think. I mean, cheap shot is exactly what it sounds like. Make a dexterity and subterfuge roll as a reflexive action. The opponent tries to contest with their wits and composure, their notice, right? If you score more successes, the opponent loses his defense for the next turn. You're kind of bait and switching.
Dang.
Good old fate.
Yeah.
Chokehold. Close quarters combat, another style merit where you're buying things in order. Defensive combat. Oh, well. I think that's what that meant. Instead of a specialty, I think you have to buy the defensive combat merit and then get.
Okay, what's the defensive combat merit?
Costs 1 dot. It requires brawl or weaponry 1 dot. You got to pick one.
Mm-hmm.
Use your brawl or weaponry to calculate defense rather than athletics.
Oh, interesting.
You can learn both versions of that merit, allowing you to use any of the 3 skills to calculate defense.
And that's horrible for me because my athletics is better than both of those.
You could always move around
Yeah.
athletics then.
The choice is yours.
I'll read some more of the physical, the fighting merits.
Yeah.
Fighting finesse. Firefight.
What's fighting finesse?
Choose a specialty in weaponry or brawl when you purchase this merit. You may substitute your character's dexterity for her strength when making rolls with that specialty.
What's the cost?
It costs 2 dots,
Sounds good for like the chain.
requires 3 dex, and a specialty to pick in weaponry.
Okay, that works for me because my dex is better than my strength.
Perfect.
That's what I figured.
Fighting finesse costs 2 dots.
That's
Choose a
something to build
specialty in
towards.
weaponry or brawl, and you can use your dex for your strength when making rolls with that specialty.
You actually whip it. You don't just
Whip it good.
smack it.
Yes. Firefight, that's a style thing. It's 1 to 3. It has to do with being comfortable with the gun. Grappling, what it sounds like. Heavy weapons, what it sounds like. Improvised weaponry. Iron skin. Light weapons. Marksmanship. Martial arts.
That's it.
Police tactics. Shiv. Street fighting. See, okay, that's what they were talking
That's
about.
okay.
It wasn't clear that that was a merit requirement.
Yeah.
And unarmed
It
defense.
kind of sounded like that, but
So there you go.
What's unarmed?
Unarmed defense. You have to pick the merit defensive combat brawl before you can take that. So those are all the fighting merits. And that's it.
I think I'm good for merits.
And I'm good for merits too.
If you still want to look, I can. Now that we've sort of narrowed it down, I can just hand you the tablet. You can
Go
sort of
for
page
it.
through.
I've spent mine on this.
So the merits start on this page.
I think I'm good.
You sure?
Yeah.
You spent all your 7 points,
I did.
Steven?
Yep.
Okay. Good.
Still need to think of a virtue.
Did you do all the derived attributes at the bottom? You can see all the equations and stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Got your initiative mod, defense, speed, size, aspirations. We filled out health and willpower, right? So you're bubbling in the dots above hand, right? Because the boxes are what you're ticking off to say that's how many you've used, right? One thing to note about the health before we do it. We're almost there.
Hey.
Everybody's inspirations in here.
You put you can figure those out in play. It's not again, that's for like experience over a longer term. You check off from the left to right. Does that make sense? So take the box, right? If you take bashing damage, which is like somebody like punches you in the face, that's bashing damage.
Yeah.
You would make a little slash in the leftmost empty box. If it was lethal damage, anything with a weapon, like a knife, that'd be an X in the leftmost box without lethal or the aggravated damage, which is the higher version of that. Aggravated damage, which looks like a asterisk,
Is bad.
which would be like an X with another line through it in this case, is in the leftmost empty box that isn't already the leftmost box that isn't already aggravated. Marking over moves everything one box to the right. That makes sense?
Okay. So it's not like if you had a stun and then you got a lethal, that stun turns into lethal. It's that stun moves over.
The lethal would have to be in the leftmost box that doesn't have lethal or aggravated.
The stunned moves over. It's not like you.
Yeah, you have to kind of wrap your head around it, but it does make sense when you start to come to grips with it.
Yeah.
So, like, if I took bashing damage here...
It's not like it overwrites
here.
the stun damage.
No, it's still there. It's just that you have to move everything over. And I took lethal damage. I would put it right here. Does that make sense?
Because in red markets, it...
Well, actually,
kind of
what I would do is
overwrites.
this.
Yeah, it layers.
In that case, I would put lethal here and move the bashing over there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because you always have to fill left to right. The reason is that you regain health from right to left. And bashing damage is easier to heal than lethal, which is easier to heal than aggravated. And there's a whole thing for that we will get into when you inevitably get hurt and die.
So don't worry, it'll just be all aggravated all at once.
If you take full aggravated damage on your track, you are literally dead.
Yep. Did you decide to pet a werewolf?
If your track was full of lethal damage,
Oh, it must be coconut.
you would add +1 damage each
Yes.
minute until you receive some kind of medical surgical attention, right? So that would mean the lethal damage would start becoming aggravated damage. Slowly fill up left to right until you were dead.
As you're bleeding out.
If you have one
Shouldn't
of
have
3 of your rightmost boxes that you have, right? Because your health boxes aren't all of these boxes. It depends on the equation, right? You would start to take some wound penalties.
Starting at 3.
So when it's filled out, you get the wound pill.
For instance, if your third to last box is marked with any kind of damage, you would take a -1 to any action you were trying to do.
Yeah. And then 2, and then...
And then a 2, and then a 3 would be your last box. Does that make sense?
Which basically means you can't do anything.
Can't do shit.
That's even if it's just bashing damage.
Even if it's bashing damage, yeah.
You are so bruised
You're at your
up
limit,
that you're out of it. You are ready to fall unconscious.
Okay.
Neat.
So there we go. Periodically during the game, there will be things kind of like conditions called tilts, which are like sick, poisoned, drugged, immobilized, insane,
It's a classic.
or environmental tilts like heavy rain, foot Jason, flooded. That's a reference. Earthquake, etc., etc.
I made the good video game.
So those are things that will like temporarily apply depending on, like somebody can tackle you and like deal the knocked down tilt, and now you have to deal with that, right?
Status.
Okay, so who is everybody?
Who would like to start?
I need to know who you are.
Because I literally have a write-up. Are we just doing like name, or are we doing like background?
Well,
Do we know
like,
each other?
I would like a name and a concept, you know, like a pithy little thing that says who you are, right? And then if you know each other, because obviously, like I said, you live in the same apartment building. You don't necessarily have to know each other. You can have seen each other before, passing in the hallway, going on the elevator, whatever. You don't have to know each other. You will in the course of the game. But
You don't have to start that way.
you don't have to start that way.
Okay, well, my character's name is Emily.
Is that how many E's is that?
Thank you. Just normal spelling.
Emily.
M for short. E-M for short.
It's a Dutch last name.
You know, not
God damn it! I never have a last name.
Emily M for sure.
Why do you always ask me for a last name?
Because last names are real human
Strafford. I don't know.
things.
Strafford.
I know which games to figure out a last name for, and then I write them. Like
I'm awful
like
at
the
it.
D&D ones. Like, yeah, who cares?
I prepped this character concept way beforehand.
But
Because
like,
I'm like, I'm getting a last name.
You're
modern games, I need a last name.
you're Emily Strafford.
Yeah, I'm
What's your concept?
working artist.
Okay.
That can
As
be
opposed to a
rough
struggling
one.
As
artist.
opposed to a struggling artist, yes.
You've made it.
Well,
Congratulations.
Starving artist.
You're a working painter?
Yes.
I'll be a little more specific. A painter. The more specific you can be, the better.
Your
for
studio
me.
is your apartment.
and for
not,
you as your player.
Not quite the.
Although my
you're-
idea was that like she draws and paints, but she also does stuff like on
or maybe actually have a
computers as well.
Well, she's probably
Graphics.
primarily known for painting.
Yeah.
Then that's what I would.
Multimedia.
Okay.
but can also do digital art.
Sure, you're doing
Yeah.
visual arts.
Yeah,
and,
visual arts,
digital stuff. Yeah, that makes sense. Steven.
I'll be playing Fisk Walsh.
Fisk,
Yep. F-I-S-K.
and then Walsh, W-A-L-S-H.
Yep.
Okay. Who is
Did you
Fisk
leave
Walsh?
food?
That was.
I fed him
Yeah.
one.
Just
Oh, I just had
Missed a piece?
extra food in this.
Okay, he never misses food.
found the one. Concept is a trans man who is basically a family exile and just trying to get by.
Okay. Trying to think of a blank trans man.
Exiled.
Exiled.
Is what I was going
Sure,
with?
yeah, exiled trans man. That's easier.
Came from a big Irish Catholic family.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, they don't. They
Yeah.
probably don't like that. Yeah. Exiled trans man. Okay. So I'm assuming. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're female.
Yeah, I don't know how to play a guy.
It's much the same as you would play a female character, except you would talk about your genitals more often.
I don't want to talk about my genitals.
Well, there you go.
Do you remember the night I shouted at like a random NPC for talking about his genitals and
Sure,
like screamed
that's
that
true.
nobody wanted his dick?
I was the NPC.
So,
Of course, I remember.
I don't want to talk about genitals.
I'm pretty sure that was actually Zach, not you.
No,
Oh, was it?
no,
I don't
it
know.
was an NPC, and like because I was trying to get Dog's Body out of a bar, and it ended up with Dog's Body. I was like,
No,
okay, come on, because I was like,
I-
nobody wants your dick.
I was thinking about
Yes.
the other one where it was Zach as the dwarf.
Yeah. Why are all of you obsessed with dicks? If that comes out, I'm leaving. I'm just really tired.
What are your?
And the
What do you
violence.
identify as? Fisk.
Male.
Male. Okay, so yeah, you're female to male.
Mm-hmm.
Lance, what's your character?
Cecil Connington.
Cecil, C-E-C-I-L.
Yep.
And you spell that last name for me?
Connington.
C-O-N-N. Connington.
Connington.
C-O-N-N-I-N-G-T-O-N.
Yes.
And you are a...
A advertising analyst.
Sure, ad analyst.
God, I got bored just listening to that.
Yeah. I'm sitting here thinking like that is the widest character I have ever seen played in a game.
And male, I assume?
Yep.
Okay.
It's what came to mind.
I know this is totally
That's
fine.
half
It's
the
just-
fun of this is like you're playing sometimes boringly normal
people, yeah. Who
then have to deal with this.
Because then I could think of like certain skills that would be like you might be pretty good in computers, just like looking at information or investigation, analytics. It's really hard.
Yeah.
He's in.
So, Robert, your character?
Makoto Fujimoto. She is a fearless bike messenger.
Koto Fujimoto.
What brand of bike does she?
Ooh, there's an important question.
Bike
Is it a Yamaha?
Nice.
Swin.
Schwinn?
Yeah, Swin.
We will say
Going with that type of bike.
moto messenger, so I know it's a motorcycle and not...
It's not. It's a bicycle.
Oh, it's literally a bicycle. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Bike messenger.
No, she's like one of the messengers on the.
On like the street.
Like a courier, you got a bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Makoto Fujimoto. Female, I assume?
Yes, she is.
Whistle dog.
Okay.
Yeah, that's you.
Still need a
Virtue. No.
Do you want our virtues and our vices or not?
It'll become apparent during the play. If you think you tell me like, hey,
self-discovery of my virtue. There we go.
Yeah.
if you figure it out, or if you have it already in mind and you're like, hey, I'm doing this or I'm saying this because
It's
the virtue
vanity.
of the vice.
Let's be honest. That's my vice.
Now, obviously, it's you regain
Pride.
willpower. You can't get more willpower than you started with. Does that make sense?
Sure. Well, I'm an artist. Mine's pretty easy to figure out. It's pot.
Nice.
You're a virtue.
Yeah, my virtue's pot. My vice is pot. Have fun.
Well, I mean,
My virtue's pot. My vice is more pot.
It could be like LSD or like
No.
mushrooms.
No, I want to have all my teeth and stuff. It's fine.
Yeah.
LSD doesn't do anything. That's
That'd be
just a
presentable.
tablet. That doesn't do anything.
Still.
It does some other stuff.
It quickly
It
dissolves.
helps with your depression.
It's meth that fucks up.
Are you tired of unsightly
yeah.
teeth?
You will not need to go to the dentist anymore.
Down at the Midwest Meth Co.
And yeah, that's pretty bad.
All right. So, here's the deal. It is the year of someone's Lord, 2018. You live in the heart of Chicago, downtown, not in the suburbs.
Not a fucking suburb.
You are right smack dab in the middle of the urban environment of Chicago. You all live in the same apartment building.
How many hours do you have to sleep there to be,
To kind of
leave
be living. If
You pay the rent.
if you pay them, you live. Does anyone know the name of the apartment building by chance?
Hartford Place.
That's a good one.
Hartford Place. You live in a decent apartment complex called Hartford Place.
Is it modern or is it more antique?
If you mean are there outhouses?
No. Is it like a stone apartment or like a typical high rise?
Oh, I see what you're saying. The kind of the design,
Architecture.
of it, right? The architecture.
Do we have a nice 70s like brutalist movement building?
Everything
No,
with
it's a relatively
Steel and concrete.
it's a modern building.
Modern.
It's not like a renovated. It's like a changed
Very
Victorian
contemporary.
home or something. It's got several floors. It's got hardwood, inside the apartment itself, and everything. So it's a kind of a modern style, right? Contemporary style, we'll say. So. The four of you live in this apartment complex, just trying to eke out a living in downtown Chicago. When it's kind of a blustery day, early October, and you all happen to notice as you're moving about. It's a Sunday, so people are off work.
Some of us.
It's a Sunday, you're off work.
I got forced to have a vacation day.
You happen
One
to
of
notice
those guys.
that someone new is moving into
When
the
I hear
apartment.
advertising,
Now-
it's pretty much. Oh my god.
Normally, that wouldn't be cause for really any notice. I mean, people come and go to this apartment complex all the time. There are 4 floors, plenty of apartments. People are always moving in and out. The turnover is kind of high because the rent's not cheap. and Chicago is the city that constantly moving. The city that works, as they call it.
It's not Gary.
So it's not Gary, Indiana. No, absolutely.
Next door neighbor.
What's notable about this new person is that it's an exceedingly old man
Cecil.
who is not only dressed but also is by way of what looks like a male, probably a nurse or assistant of some kind, is loading off of a truck all of this furniture that looks like it was taken straight out of the late 50s, early 60s. It's just if there was a red flag for 50s, 60s like dad stereotype, all the wood and everything like that, it is now heading up inside the lobby and up into the apartment.
They're going to redo the walls with like wood paneling.
Right.
As we speak.
40 to 60.
Second station wagon.
So you see that the older man is not he isn't doing any of the moving himself. He's got to be at least 80, 90 years old. He's a shrunken little man wearing these kind of tiny spectacles, a bow tie, liver spots all over. He is sitting on a beat-up wooden bench watching the movers go by, one of whom, like I said, is dressed in these it's got a kind of a dirty scrub top over some jeans, so it's clearly the nurse or the hospice care person helping out the truck movers, moving things in and out. You see that there's as slowly is emerging this green, drab-looking, wood-armed couch, looking like a complete antique, being sort of loaded into the lobby. And you're noticing this either from your apartment window, or you're on the street nearby, you're in a coffee shop just on across the street, wherever. You're kind of have an eye on this thing that's happening in front of of Hartford Place. You see the kind of dingy looking fellow in the scrub top, the nurse. He goes into the back of the truck and grabs what looks like this globe, right? It looks even older than the wood armed couch that they just moved out. It looks like a globe that's been like the map that's been posted around like the actual ball of the globe probably hasn't been updated since like 1918.
Still says USSR.
In this brass, it still says USSR. It's on the brass.
No, it sounds like it's before USSR.
It just says
India is still a
Mesopotamia.
part of England.
That's all it says. And then water. It's just water. He throws this globe to one of the movers who sort of catches it and gives him a stink eye and goes back into the lobby. And you see him then retrieve what looks like this kind of bulbous green glass lamp from the truck. And he hops down and he starts making his way towards the front doors, towards the lobby, and he doesn't quite make the transfer from asphalt to curb. Trips, falls, and you see the glass lamp fall to the ground, and you see the hood crack. And then you see him the nurse gets up and then dusts himself off, and then raises his hands in the air, and he just slumps down on the sidewalk next to the lamp. And he's just sitting there, kind of like, what the hell just happened? You can see the old man sort of lean over and sort of look a little closer, adjusting his spectacles, and he calls out, "Don't you worry about it, Richard. You didn't cut yourself, did you?" And you see that Richard, the nurse, is just completely like, whatever. He's just not even giving him the time of day, looking down in his stringy hair, not making any eye contact. You're close enough to the scene that you could figure out with a quick glance how much that lamp was worth, if you're so inclined.
That sounds like
if you want to kind of appraise the damage.
Okay.
Okay, what kind of roll would that be?
So this is like, here's the tutorial.
Yeah.
How do we do the thing?
You use, you could either as your attribute, you could either use wits or intelligence.
Okay.
Wits.
You would add to that either crafts
Yes.
or academics, and then add any equipment that you have that might be
No.
relevant.
That puts my dice pool at -1, so no.
You have the 1 dice. Yeah, you
Yep.
have the chance dice.
Your chance die.
That's 7.
So what happens if I do get an extramatic failure on this?
That would be a good question. I'm not exactly sure.
I'm just going to
So
try
how does
just
this work?
in case that happens.
Sure.
Dice for real roll 3
8, 9,
ones.
and 10s.
Hard one.
That is a dramatic failure on this.
Okay.
So, well, tell me where you are.
I'm in the
That's a
coffee
10,
shop
actually.
across
Across the street. Yeah.
9.
So you end up.
That's a 10.
You
No,
can't
that's-
quite
I'll do
see
1.
the extent of the damage from because you're several feet away.
Two
It's,
successes.
it's happening across the street.
Same
And this
here.
lamp is about yay big. It's not. It's handheld. Something you can hold. You are leaning over with your coffee, and you're trying to get closer and closer. And you find out that as you're leaning, your hand is doing that thing where it's becoming unmoored from basic horizontal tilt. And so the coffee ends up spilling into a person that's across the back of someone who's sitting next to you. And you hear this hiss of God, fuck! What's wrong with you? Jesus!
Okay, I'm going to take the dog out before I kill him.
He very quickly stands up and throws a sort of like a beige jacket off. It's wringing it out. What the hell's wrong with you?
There's the lamp.
I love lamp.
I hope you're going to pay for my dry cleaning. What a bitch.
Welcome to Chicago.
He then flags down a waiter and asks for some kind of kind of cloth that he can use to kind of mop up the stains and kind of ginger. No, it's a club soda or something. So who did anyone succeed?
I had 1 success.
1 success.
2.
2.
And Rachel also had 2.
Okay, so the 3 of you who have not burned a man's back with actual coffee, you can tell that from where you are, it was an antique brass wall fixture, kind of like one from one of those sort of older buildings downtown. It's the kind of thing that you would see in like a library, for instance. With the green hood of the lamp and the brass fixture. You can't just buy those. It's got to be a keepsake from somewhere. You can't replace it. And you probably know that the old man knows that as well, and he's being exceedingly nice to the nurse. He's probably upset that it's been damaged, but he's water under the bridge and saying, okay, that's fine. Things are going to happen.
Is that with the 2
moving
successes?
Mm-hmm.
That's with 2 successes.
Okay.
It's a moving day. Sometimes things break.
Sometimes you lose.
You see him sort of very slowly get up. He's not using a cane or anything. He's just very slow to move. And he sort of shuffles over there and pats Richard on the shoulder and then makes his way up into the lobby. And then you see him sort of start to make his way into the elevator to go up to the floor that his new apartment is at.
There was some subtle advertising right there. You fan the donut smell over here?
Donut.
Well, I look at my empty coffee cup and go, damn it.
Now we need a refill.
Just throw it away and go back to my apartment.
Okay, so you make your way back to Hartford Place, across the street. You can still hear that guy, very low grumbling, fucking Asian bitch, pouring coffee on my back like an asshole. It's like, oh, it's a real, being a real dick. As you,
My vice is raffle, so I may have to go over.
well, hey,
That's what I figured.
you won't get any. I mean, you're already at max
you're right,
willpower, but so it won't be helpful to you. But if you want to be wrathful, by all means.
Wrathful would be getting another coffee going, oops, so sorry.
Now that'd be petty.
I'm sorry, spiteful.
Vindictive.
Still
So,
fun.
yeah, I'm raffle, so instead of throwing the coffee cup away, I just kind of picture that at the back of his head.
Okay, what kind of is it? Like a paper coffee cup, or is it like a?
No, it's like a paper coffee cup.
Okay, you hear a soft. He looks around. What the fuck? Who threw that? He gets up. Who the fuck threw that? Was it you? And there's a small, like, Latina grandmother's. No say, no say. He sees, he's getting the waiter over. He's like, I want to speak to your manager. Somebody just threw a fucking coffee cup at me. And the manager's trying to, like, soften the issue. And you're sort of watching this as you're going back across the street over your shoulder.
Just kind of
grabbing your
about
bike.
it.
As you're making your way back into Hartford Place, the lobby, give me a quick. Where are the three of you?
In my apartment.
You're in your apartment.
What time of
What
morning
floor
is
is your
it?
apartment? There are 4 floors.
Let's go with
Well, there's
third
ground floor, first, second, and
So it's
third.
not-
There are
No,
apartments on the ground floor.
Let's do third floor.
Third floor?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm watching from my apartment because I'm betting if it's Sunday morning, my ass has not left my apartment.
Indulging in the pot, right?
Coffee.
Irish
Coffee,
coffee.
Hey now.
Except, Jamaican coffee.
Hey.
Hey.
This is fucking coffee,
So,
man.
so Fisk, where's Fisk?
Probably third floor as well. Probably more expensive to be higher up. More stairs you got to deal with.
Yeah. It gets
Well,
it gets
there's a
in a small sort of, it's still noticeable gradation, like kind of
Yeah.
choicer, more expensive the higher up you get.
Get a little
Probably
bit more
on
floor
like
space.
a small balcony of some sort.
Okay.
Just like watching
Off
the
the
world
front,
below.
yeah, going-
Yeah.
I'm sitting in like a desk chair in front of the window, just kind of watching my coffee.
Just being out in the elements.
Cecil?
I think I live in the 4th floor. I don't know. I've just
You're on the 4th
recently
floor.
got home.
Well, it's a Sunday, so if you were working from the office,
It was a late Saturday.
Yeah. You haven't slept yet.
Makoto?
Bad
I'm a bike
commitment,
messenger,
people
so
like
I
that.
probably don't live at the top, so probably second floor.
Second floor? Yeah, makes sense.
They don't have to carry your bike up all the way.
Right?
I'm
That is
athletic,
such-
so I like the athletics.
Yeah, but that is such a
So you're
pain.
coming back into the lobby, you see that the elevator's already gone, and you're like, well, all right, well, I'm going to have to go up the stairs.
Oh, I take the stairs anyway.
Can always fit a bike in a elevator.
Yeah.
Emily,
It's a little
Fisk, you hear the telltale kind of broken bell kind of... Do you know the sound that a normal bell ringer would make if you just like hit it with a spoon?
Yeah.
Chunk! Instead of a ding. That's exactly the kind of noise that this elevator makes. And you're like, oh, somebody's here. Chunk! And the doors slide open, and then you hear the iron being moved, the sort of safety bar being moved up. And you hear what sounds like this Richard guy from the sort of the tone of voice. This way, Mr. Ellsworth, right over here. You're through 306. And you hear them sort of. You hear the Richard walking down, and then you hear the shuffling of old feet making his way. Are you still in your apartment?
Yeah.
Okay. So you hear a nearby door
Curious,
open up.
but-
You're hearing movers, sort of their heavy footsteps moving things in and starting to get things settled. It's about 5 minutes later, and Cecil, you can sort of vaguely hear this from below. Fisk, you hear a knock on your door.
Get off the porch, balcony, make my way over to the front door and look through the people.
You can say, it's a ghost! No.
Nobody's there. Wait, can you look through the people? Because you're super small?
I had to get rid of that so I could do wall running.
Oh,
I'm just
the ghost
I'm just
reminded me.
naturally smaller.
Yeah, but you're
Just
not like 4
Not
foot.
statistically smaller, you know.
Not quite so below
I'm like
the
5'4",
average.
5'3".
That just reminded me. Let's real quick. I'm going to plant some questions in your mind for the breaking points. Right.
Okay.
What's the worst thing your character's ever done? What's the worst thing your character can imagine themselves doing? Ooh. What's the worst thing your character can imagine someone else doing? What has your character forgotten? And what's the most traumatic thing that's ever happened to your character?
Got that one.
So those are things that around which we build your breaking points. Just think of
Do I need to write them down?
You can if you like. You can,
Just think about it.
just think about it. You don't have to put anything down right now. Just think about it.
All right.
So you see through the peephole, Fisk, there is this. He looks like he's in his late 20s. The most concise picture that I can paint of this guy. It's the old man's nurse.
Okay.
Is like a shitty, strung out Eddie Vedder. He's kind of got a blocky build. Looks like he used to be in shape, but he's been kind of softening for a year or so. His skin's like a vaguely drunk-looking red. He's got dark spots, shadowy circles. He's wearing this dirty scrub top. I see that's a joke that I put in there for myself. Over a Pearl Jam tee and dirty blue jeans. You can see it's poking out from the neck. And he's just sort of like, he's got his finger in his ear, and he's sitting there. He looks at it for a minute, wipes it off. His dirty scrub top. And he goes to knock again.
I'll open before he finishes knocking.
Oh, hey.
Yeah?
Yeah. The old man, what is it? He's Mr. Ellsworth. And you see this older gentleman start shuffling back towards the door there. I'm not good with social interactions. Can you just talk to this person, please? And you see this, again, this sort of wizened old man in a bow tie, argyle V-neck sweater, khaki pants, shiny loafers.
The professor.
He's all but bald. He's got liver spots, finger to face. You know, his hands are shaking. So he's very slowly sort of shuffling his way over there, and he puts his hand on Richard's shoulder and says,
on his way over, I'm going to mention to Richard, like, nice shirt.
And he's like, he stares at you deathly. Like, he has absolutely no interest in what you've said.
Oh.
You might as well have said, I killed your dad. And he's like, so the old man, Ellsworth, comes up, puts his hand on Richard's shoulder, and he's like, "That's all right, my boy. I understand your generation was a little bit different in terms of meeting people. That's all right. I'll take care of it from here. You'll go on and help the movers back there. There's another heavy recliner that needs to be lifted up." And you see very obviously Richard's face and body go,
soul leaving
like a
body.
petulant child. His soul leaves his body, and he just sort of trundles out over back towards 306. And you see this old man, and he sort of offers a shaking hand to you.
Touche.
And he says, I thought I would make my rounds over here to. It's important for me to meet my neighbors. I'm just the kind of person I am. My name's Simon Ellsworth. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Simon, nice to meet you. I'm Fisk.
Fisk, a very masculine name. It's very powerful. I like it.
I will mention that Fisk currently is like 5'3", like roughly 140 pounds, suntan Caucasian skin, brown pixie cut.
So this man, kind of hunched over and kind of in his old wizened way, is actually still roughly your height at that point.
We're
And
height
so
buddies.
he's sort of he's seeing you eye to eye, you know, and he finishes shaking your hand. So Fisk, you say, what's your surname?
Walsh, sir.
Walsh. You see him sort of scratch his temple for a second.
It's Irish.
Yeah. Catholic, I assume.
Family is.
Oh, I see. I know what you mean, son. We have some Lutherans in our are distant relatives, and we're not too fond of them either. So I asked because I might know one of your folks, or great grand folks. I know quite a few people in this downtown area several years ago, but Walsh is not ringing a bell.
Meatpacking district?
Oh no. I used to be. I'm retired now. I was an architect by trade. You may have known. Have you heard of the firm Hollibird and Root? Very well known. It's been around since the turn of the century. I was a draftsman there in the 50s, and
Sounds very prestigious.
oh, it certainly was. Yes, I was very proud to become a draftsman there, and I worked as
pride
an
in your work.
architect there for quite a long time, and got to work on quite a few buildings. It was really quite marvelous.
I'm sure I've gone in a couple of them.
You may have. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Decided we're next door neighbors. Can I hear this through my door?
Yeah.
I like this.
Okay, great. Save me some conversation here. I'm just going to start brewing another cup of coffee while I'm hearing this old man make
So
conversation.
he's trying to make conversation with you.
Watering the plants.
Not a pothead. I just like pot. Okay?
So Fisk, what exactly is it that you do on a day-to-day basis?
I just need it for my work, which is all the time.
Have you got any pot? No.
I've recently
It
been in
helps my
between
joints.
jobs, but right now I'm working as a courier.
Oh, I see.
And that's how we'll know each other. We are rivals.
Right. Get out the switchblade.
Cool.
Somebody needs to figure out who's sharks and who's jets.
We'll take sharks.
A courier, you said, delivering documents and so on the streets.
Plenty of legal firms around here still need paper documents. sent
Oh,
back
yes,
and
of
forth.
course. They go through a lot of that stuff every day.
Mhm. Somebody's got to deliver those blueprints of yours, don't they?
That is true. Well, back in my day, actually, I think I can recall several times we used to just go up and do it ourselves.
Oh, yeah. Times have changed, haven't they?
Yes, they have. They have indeed. You kids still eating those detergent pods? Or?
Okay.
No, we don't. I don't do that anymore.
Oh, that's good. That's bad for you. You know that's supposed to go in the washer, right?
Yeah, it's poison.
Yeah.
Literally, yeah.
I sometimes
These analytics.
I own a computer. That's as much as it may seem like.
That's
like
good.
I've just come right
That's
out
us.
of Pleasantville. But I do have one, and I will occasionally get on there and see what the young folk are doing. I'm just glad that it's not as big of a problem as it used to be. Last time I checked, there were something about they look like candy. I don't get that.
I don't study that stuff.
That's probably for the best.
Yeah.
You'll live longer that way. So, I just thought I'd come over and introduce myself, and I want you to know that since I'm going to be moving in, I'm in 3056.
306?
306. Yes,
Simon in 306. I'll
That's
remember
right.
that.
And if you want to stop by, you need a friendly ear or a cup of coffee or oh gosh, I got a whole acre full of just interesting knickknacks and all right, some of it's junk, but if you want some of it, you're more than welcome to come over and I'll try to pawn it off. I mean, give it to you.
Sure, that sounds wonderful.
So it gives you a wink. All right then. Well, I'll see you sometime in the future. Now don't be a stranger. Now.
All right, have a good day, Mr. Simon.
Goodbye. He sort of waddles off.
So kind of like standing in the doorway. Make sure he gets back to his room safely.
He does. It takes about like 45 seconds. It's really not a long walk. It takes a little while. Loafers squeaking as he makes his way down the hall.
Smile and close the door and go back to lounging on the Lounging outdoors.
Very good. Very good. So,
You don't need a pint to deliver. You just run.
I run, and then when it's long distance, I use my 2001 Yaris to get there.
how oddly specific. So, that was about a week ago. Mr. Ellsworth has settled into the apartment complex. You see him every now and again. Here he's asking. Actually, let's do it. He asks. You're on the 4th floor. She's going to stay on the 3rd floor.
I'm the one next door to.
He's going to knock on your door.
Okay.
It's about a week later. You hear a
I'll
light
look at the
knock.
people.
You see a wizened old man with a bow tie.
I'll open the door. Yes.
Hello there, young miss. I'm Simon Ellsworth. I live over there in 306.
Oh yeah, no, I overheard you talking to my neighbor last week.
Oh,
Introduce myself.
eavesdropping, were you? I see. You're not from. You don't work for the government, do you?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm kind of disappointed. I was hoping to be a higher priority target than that.
Oh, I have to work harder.
Well, I can't work very much as it is. Hate to break it to you. Anyway, I thought I'd come by and introduce myself and also to trouble you for a little favor. You see, I'm in the process of making my apartment just real spiffy, and I'm hanging some stuff on the walls, and by God, my hands are not as strong as they used to be, as dexterous as they used to be, and I find it difficult to get the painting hung in just the right way. I was hoping for somebody, a young person with a little more stability, so to speak.
Point out that I'm probably in my painting clothes, which are like beat up jeans, and I have paint on my shirt, and I look like I've been,
He has
like,
not seemed to have noticed you.
Okay,
He's just looking
great.
directly at
'Cause
your
I'm
face.
like covered in.
He has straight face contact. How are you
Right.
doing? Yeah. So I thought maybe if you weren't busy, perhaps I could impress upon you a little bit of a favor to help me with the hanging.
Sure. Wouldn't you like me to come by?
Right now.
Look at my hand. You have to give me a minute. Show me.
Oh dear. Oh, that's,
I'm a painter myself.
I should hope so. Otherwise, I'm gonna
It's not red.
have to find that clown you strangled.
Okay. You live in
306.
306. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Why don't you just give me a couple minutes to not have paint on my clothes?
Sure, certainly.
I'm sure you don't want paint on your apartment.
Well, for some pieces in the apartment, that might be an improvement. Actually. I'll give you some time, and I sure do appreciate it. I'll be over there.
Sure. No problem.
I'm going to shuffle off.
Don't worry, you'll still beat him back to his room.
You go, you take a shower, you scrub your hands very, very thoroughly.
I
You
just
change
wash,
clothes,
yeah,
you walk
just wash my hands
outside.
off
He's
and put on a
halfway
clean
there.
shirt. And,
No.
Let's get initiative rolls for this.
right? Can I beat the old man to his apartment?
Can you then beat the old man?
No.
Why would you do such a thing?
It's a couple days later.
I make it in and out unscathed in his paintings.
Yes, yeah. You come inside his apartment and help him hang a couple of rather nice paintings. While you're inside, you can see that his apartment is fairly completely decorated by then. He's clearly had his nurse's help, and the movers did some initial decorating. This place looks like the office of a college professor with tenure. Like a professor who doesn't necessarily need to keep his office to a certain standard. It's all filled with like interesting bric-a-brac and so on and so forth.
Probably not much unlike art history's professors, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's
It's like back at college
it
again.
sets you at kind of at home because
Yeah.
the place has been accumulating books and photographs. It looks like for years.
Yeah. Okay.
By this point. You can see a couple of
Still not
pictures
offices.
hanging along the walls. There's large shelves full of architectural books, visual art, drawing tomes and things like that.
Probably kind of actually like this guy. Okay.
Yeah, and so he gets you to hang up a picture or two and thanks you for the time and then tries to pawn off a couple of these books on you. I don't read this anymore. I can't draw like I used to.
I will politely accept one and go home.
He
Just like
gives
I
you
do with my own
he gives you
grandparents.
he gives you a particular kind of a relatively slim volume on chiaroscuro technique, and so you take that home. A couple of days later, Makoto, you see the old man. He is he's on the second floor in the hallway outside of your apartment, in sort of the middle of the day, and he's on his hands and knees, and sort of like moving very slowly along the floor.
Is he falling?
This is how the horror
I
movie
kind of
starts.
watch, and then I say, "Are you all right down there?"
Oh, hey, excuse me, young miss. Sorry, I didn't know you were there. I seem to have misplaced my keys, and I'm trying to find where they are. And I'm not good at distance. You see, I have to
Yeah.
be pretty up close. This carpet is disgusting.
Why don't I help you look for those?
Okay, so you make your way to the apartment. Do you let him get up on his own volition, or are you going to help him up?
I'll help him up.
He takes your hand and very slowly sort of makes his way up and fully extends himself to his C shape. As you guys walk down the hallway, he sort of strikes up some conversation. I don't know if we've been properly introduced. I'm Simon Ellsworth. I live up on the third floor, 306. What's your name, young miss?
Makoto Fujimoto.
Oh yeah. You're Makoto. That's a Japanese name. Yes.
Yes.
Oh yes. I had
Not racist.
a back in the early '60s. I had a Japanese landlord. He was a delightful fellow. Keitaro. He was a real hoot.
Oh, you don't say.
Yes. Not that I assume that you know him, of course.
No.
I may look old-fashioned, but I don't think that way. Just to be clear.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's walking that fine line.
So, what is it that you do there, Makoto?
Oh, I'm one of the best bike messengers in the city of Chicago.
Oh, well, if you're the best, then you'll advertise. Huh? It makes sense.
This is how we all get together.
You deliver documents and letters and so on and so forth.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
driving through traffic
Oh, that must be quite a fright.
at breakneck speeds. Yeah, it's great.
Oh,
Yelling at taxi drivers.
oh, God's alive.
Open their doors.
You're sure to get a broken clavicle that way. The way people drive around here.
It's happened once or twice.
Oh, yeah, you seem like a sturdy young gal. You can take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear. Now you're looking for a key fob. It's gonna be. It looks a little bit like the. It's you know the opera house in Sydney. It's got all the little ridges like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
It's a little rubber rendition of that. It's a little rubber
Okay.
Sydney Opera House. And a couple of keys
I
on
kind of
there.
love this guy.
I hope so.
If you'll just kind of keep an eye out there in the corners.
One
here,
of two
try to
things.
find
Yeah, sure.
Neither of them are going to be
So,
good.
so it takes a couple of minutes, and sure enough, you're able to find that it's sort of fallen in
That's what a
between
dog
like
could do, Grandpa.
the carpet and like the molding line on the side. If you find it first, you're able to pick it up and hand it to him. He thanks you for your time and hopes that he asks you to just come by sometime upstairs and have coffee whenever you want.
That's a
it's
life
nice
you
to
don't
meet you.
retire.
Sure, I like coffee.
You'll be sure to like my blend. It's very good. It's rich. It's full-bodied, and if you got any substances you want to put in it, that's fine by me. I'm an open-minded kind of fellow.
You should really talk to my upstairs neighbor about that.
Oh, I might have met that person. What's the name?
My name's Emily.
Emily. She's a nice girl.
Oh, I did meet one young woman, but I don't think she ever gave me a name.
Sad.
I said I introduced myself. I just didn't
did
do
you
the
say?
actual
Okay.
thing. Yeah.
The one with the
He's just
the
having memory
paints.
problems.
Oh
It's
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes. She helped me hang some paintings the last week. Fine girl.
Oh yeah, I'm sure she's pretty good at that.
Oh yeah, yes. They were exceptionally straight. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything right with that either. I just want to make sure that you know that I know I'm on your wavelength.
Okay.
Okay.
Jason's officially spent enough time with my grandparents. We're good. You don't need to visit them anymore.
Well, I hope to see you for coffee sometime. You take care, Makoto.
Okay, thank you. You take care too.
So it's a couple of days later. So he's been living there for now. This time is closing in on a month.
I've probably been over like 8 or 9 times.
I've
by
probably
now.
been over a couple. Like
I've
we
been
see
over
each
a
other
few
in
times.
passing. We're like, "What's up?"
See, so you're in your apartment, and you hear a steady thumping on the floor. An incessant, steady thumping that's making it difficult for you to work.
It just keeps on going like.
I can do
Can I
this.
tell? Is it like going down the hallway, or is it just like in the same spot?
It's like hitting the same spot on your floor, the floor to your apartment, coming down.
Do you live in
Over and
406, Cecil?
He does.
Oh, this is-
Hold on, I live in 308. You live in 307. He lives in 306. We got this. You live in 208.
Yeah.
All right, we've got our geography down.
Oh,
Great. That helps me out. It really does. So you're hearing this over and over again, this thumping noise below you.
I probably think I should go to management first,
Sure, yeah.
but I think I'm going to go like this semi-plate and ask if there's like anything wrong.
Sure, you're going this area. Okay.
This is the first time it's happened.
That's right. It is the first time
This is the first time it's happened. It's not the 5th time
that you've heard anything even remotely like, a ruckus coming from.
Well,
for
at least that I
instance.
know of. I could have been gone
Soft
last
music.
time.
Well, yeah, while you were here, of course. Yeah, there was
the
an
first
orgy
time
there
you've been
before.
disrupted.
Okay, so you go down to the 3rd floor. You make your way down to, where you roughly think that that was coming from. This should clearly be the apartment below. So the door to 306 is locked. Do you call? Do you knock? What do you do?
Is it still thumping?
It's still going. Yeah, no, it's still going. This has been going the whole time. Dum, dum.
I'll just knock.
You hear the thumping continue. It unmoved, unfazed, uninterrupted.
Sir, could you please stop the thumping? It's hard to concentrate upstairs.
There's 2 more thumps. And then you hear from behind the door.
Thank
You hear
you.
what sounds like walking, and
I think by then I'm already starting to like
Halfway
walk.
up the stairs.
the door opens, and you can see this sort of stringy, shitty Eddie Vedder
Oh,
kind of leaning out.
this
He's
is
got
Richie.
he's got a tennis ball in his hand, and he's looking down the end of the apartment. Did you need something?
As long as the thumping has stopped.
What thumping?
Thank you.
Whatever, man. You hear the door slam. So you make your way back out to the 4th floor. You unlock the door. You make your way back in. And just as you sit down at your desk,
We got a sweet grandpa. You got a shitty grandson. And now it's the plot to American Psycho.
Yep.
Go!
Got this chainsaw.
You sort of
Huey
feed a
Lewis
kitten into an ATM.
The most terrifying part about it is how many people laughed at that scene.
It is pretty funny.
It's not fucking funny. It's terrifying. Okay, sorry.
I'll go back down.
With a begrudgingly, you'll go back down to the third floor. The door is still closed, and you can still hear the thumping going on.
This time I'm gonna try to open it. See if it's unlocked.
The door is unlocked, so you see it open. So you see it opening, and you see Richard, the stringy, shitty Eddie Vedder, is leaning. He's got kind of his back reclined on that dull green wood paneled couch, and he is throwing the tennis ball against the ceiling and just catching it over and over again, with a look on his face as if it is the minimal level of interest you can express in a human activity.
That would be the thumping.
So he turns to look at you, and the tennis ball like bashes off of his face on the way back down. Doesn't faze him at all. Sorry.
Thank you.
It's about that time that you see the old man shuffle around from the corner where the sort of the kitchenette area is, and he said, "Richard, what's all that? What's all that hubbub going? Oh, hello there. I'm sorry. Is there some kind of a problem here?"
It seems I live right above your apartment. And
Oh, you do? Well, let me, Richard, go do that.
it seems like there was some noise coming from this apartment.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to disturb you. Well, while I have you, Simon Ellsworth, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Cecil Connington.
Connington, yeah, I see. Is your father Brad Connington?
Nope.
Oh, I see. Well, there are a couple of Conningtons around here, so I must be mistaken. So you said there was some noise coming from this apartment. Is that correct?
Seems like there's a tennis ball hitting your ceiling, my floor.
Oh, and he looks up at the ceiling and looks around at the floor. I don't see a tennis ball. Oh.
Bounced
I don't
off his
play.
face. It should be about over there.
Oh, and he sort of shuffles over behind the couch and picks it up. Oh, yes, this belongs to Richard. Somebody must have gotten a hold of it and was throwing it against the ceiling. Richard, did somebody come in here and throw your tennis ball against the ceiling? And Richard is in the kitchenette doing dishes at this point. He's scrubbing very slowly. No. All right then. You keep me apprised, I suppose. I'm sorry. Either way, whatever happened, I don't mean to be a nuisance. I don't want my neighbors, vertically or otherwise, to have issues with me. Just trying to live here peacefully. I tell you what. I'm sorry to have disturbed you in any way. Can I make you some coffee? Would you like some coffee, son?
Always need some coffee.
Oh, one of those types, huh? Not able to sleep. Everything all clenched up.
No time for sleep.
Son, you're going to have to make time for sleep. Otherwise, you're going to look like me inside of a month. You could just have a seat there. I'll have the coffee brewing, and I'll get something to you. Just make yourself comfortable there. Have a seat. And he shuffles off to the kitchenette, and you hear the slow percolating of coffee. As you're taking a look around in the apartment, there's several pictures hung up on the walls. Not just paintings, but like actual photographs that have been framed and put
Or
on
like
the walls.
sketches of building seasons.
Yeah, there's some sketches here and there. There's like a ground plan. There's like a sort of a side view sketch of what the building should look like, a concept drawing, basically.
I think I've probably heard of the firm he worked for.
Halliburton Root. It's a pretty. Side note: that is an actual, literal design firm that is actually in real world Chicago. It has been around for since like the late 1800s. Yeah, so
History.
so you see, one of the pictures catches your eye. It's a framed photograph. You can see a young man, tall and dark-haired, next to a round, mustachioed guy in a room full of drafting tables. And you can see that the room is lit with sunlight that's reflecting off of what looks like the Chicago skyline behind them. You recognize something in the dark-haired man, something about the squintiness, the smile that he has. That's probably Ellsworth, is what you're sort of drawing the conclusion for. After a few seconds, Mr. Ellsworth comes back in to the sort of living room area. He's got a mug in his hand and a bottle of sort of those weird shaped bottles of coffee creamer. And he, how do you take your coffee?
Just black.
Hardcore. I see. You caught sight of my one of my photographs there. Yeah. You know that was taken in 1955. You know? That's me and John Michael Burgess. You ever heard of Mr. Burgess?
Nope.
You could do an actual check. You could do
Academics, intelligence.
Sounds right.
Yeah, you could do intelligence and then academics. Yeah, which would include history, right?
There you go.
Well, one success.
One success. Okay. Yeah, you have heard of John Michael Burgess. You know that John Michael Burgess was a decently popular architect over the course of the last, since like 1953 onward. He was responsible for a lot of designs across Chicago. You seem to recall that he made a good fortune in the 70s by buying up a lot of properties and then renovating them in these kind of bland modern styles and then reselling them or turning them into condominiums or what have you.
The original flipper.
In a way, yeah.
Yes, I believe I've known of his work.
Yeah, that's the two of us over at Halliburton and Root, the design firm, architectural firm. It was our first year as apprentice draftsman.
He was, or
oh no, we both were. We came into the firm at the same time. You see, he was a formally trained architect. He'd gone to school for it. You see, and I had read a lot of architecture books. I admired a lot of people in the old guard. John Welborn Root of Halliburton and Root fame, and I did a lot of sketching on the side. I fancied myself an architect, but I never had the time or the money to go to school for it. But thankfully, my sketches alone impressed the folks at Halliburton Root enough. They took me on as a draftsman and said, "We'll teach you on the job." And I've been architecturing ever since. Yes, Mr. Burgess and I came up at the same time, you see, as this was the early 50s. So the middle 40s, early 50s, around that time period. As we did quite a lot of work together. It was a kind of a sourpuss, to be honest. He looks like a kind of a portly gentleman. You'd think he's got more of the Falstaff in him, but he was very stingy, you see, with money and with praise. You understand? He didn't like to put himself in debt with anybody, whatever that meant. You see, a little difficult to be around, but he was a fine architect, a talented man, and I was happy to work with him for a while. We sort of took a separate path in 52. Was it 53? We had different ideas in mind. He was more of a flash in the pan kind of fella. He was always on to the next big fad in buildings. You know.
Sometimes your demographics change and your targets.
You what now?
Your target audience, the people that you're building for.
Oh, sure, yeah. Over the
You
years,
want something else.
couple of decades, people want, Gothic arches one day, and then they're just looking for giant concrete slabs the next. It's they want Art Nouveau, and then they want Art Deco, and then they just want art, whatever it is.
That's my specialty, is figuring out what they want before they want it.
Oh, I see. So you're in advertisement, I take it.
Yes. I'm an analyst for an advertising firm. We try to track what people want and then sell it to them, or at least people come to us that want to sell them.
Of course. You're putting money in people's hands so they can get the things that you've convinced them to want.
Sometimes.
Yeah, right. It's a business like any other. I'm just poking at you. I don't mean you no disrespect. So you're working at advertising, you say? I can't say that I know much about that. Oh, what am I doing? I'm just sitting here talking to about old friends of mine and boring architectural stuff, and I could begin to hear your coffee. Black, right? No cream.
Yes.
He begins to shuffle off.
15 minutes later.
A couple minutes later, he returns with your coffee. And he sits down next to you with his own cup and hands you yours. And he picks up what looks like an album off of the coffee table in front of you. Pages through a little bit. And he actually shows you an older photograph of what looks like a municipal building. It looks like a library. It looks like it was taken several decades ago. He sort of sips his coffee and he points it. He sticks a shaking finger and points it at the page. You see this one over here. This building. That's what the Chicago Public Library looked like back when it was new. So it's not so different now, but in a heyday, well, she was a beauty.
You design, or?
Oh, well, I had a hand in it. I wasn't a single-handed designer on that, but I was responsible for some of the more, what you might call loftier additions to it. You see, a glass dome like that, a building like that, I think does good for the whole city. It's like it's like magic. The way a glass dome can lift the spirit. You see an arch. It lends a kind of solidness to a place's feeling or mood or its identity even. What I always used to say, the place.
Now I'm actually taking out notes because this sounds
Oh,
like...
sure, yeah, good advertising.
Sounds like the next kind of...
The heart of business.
He sees you. There's not an exam on this, son. You don't have to remember that.
Inspiration, my dear friend.
As I used to say when I was younger, more of an evangelist, so to speak. I feel like the places we live in, they kind of live in us too. I think the buildings that we live in, that we work in, they remodel us as much as we remodel them. You understand? Something about the way that they're constructed, the energy and the mood and the feeling of it. It has really quite a profound effect on how we live and how we feel. That's important. That's why I got into architecture. You understand, to change how people felt when they were in one of my buildings.
Sounds like the next slogan. We don't remodel homes, we remodel lives.
That's little too science fiction for my taste, son. But you know, if it works for your firm, you go right ahead. I'm not really in the apartment business anymore, so it doesn't bother me none. He begins to continue sipping his coffee. You two pass the time to have some more conversation. He recalls to you some of his history in Chicago, the kind of buildings that he worked on. He talks to you more about his sort of spiritual philosophy, about how, you know, like, you're supposed to build a building around, like, the way you want people to feel in it, as opposed to necessarily the function is a concern, but the form has got to be, you got to, it buildings, he says, give off what you put into them. You know, and so it kind of affects you as you're in it, as you're around it, and you can either, you know, channel that energy for like positive stuff, for trust and community and all that stuff, or you can just make it kind of bland and soul crushing, right? You know, you the two of you finish your coffee, and he thanks you and apologizes for any sort of frustration or interruption, and wishes you well and hopes he'll see you again.
Probably like shake my notebook with you. It was well worth.
Thank you, son. You can quote me on that, whichever one you like. Well, I hope to see you again sometime soon. A coffee pot's always brewing if you're interested.
Thank you.
You get back upstairs.
Thankfully not. The rest of your day passes relatively silently, apart from being in downtown Chicago. Stuff going on outside all the time.
Now it's just the horns honking, you know, like constantly.
That's just white noise to you, though.
Yeah.
It's not New York. Could be worse.
It's true, yeah.
So it's the beginning of November now. It's the first week in November. It's the middle of the week. It's Wednesday. What are the four of you doing today? Right now.
What
we have
time
to
of
be-
day
On a
is it?
project.
It's the middle of the day. So
Middle
we're
of
talking
the-
about like 1 o'clock.
So I'm at work.
Mm-hmm. You're doing your bike run.
I'm at the apartment, probably working on a project.
Okay.
Probably running courier as well.
Okay. Working, trying to I'll find you. I got my bow and arrow.
It's one of those, like, every time we pass each other, it's just like,
Go! You. Lance.
Probably we're doing like a lot of the like data analysis. Of
Sure.
just,
So
like,
the rest of
looking
you are at
over-
work, but Emily is the slacker.
I'm not a slacker. I'm fucking working. I have to make money.
Well,
Which
I'm
means
a
I have
painter.
to do like stupid commercial projects that are soul sucking and I hate them.
Just to afford all the pie.
Don't interpret
Anyway,
my
so-
character.
So you're in the middle of this commercial project. You're painting
Yeah.
something by the numbers. You're like, I just got to get it done.
Yeah, I just gotta get
Um,
fucking paid so I can pay the rent. Yeah.
And you're about like 85% of the way done. It's like, I could knock this out in the afternoon. I
Yeah.
can do this, and I can move on to the rest of the stuff. And you hear, again, a particular knock. You hear shaving a haircut.
I will.
I was in a cult. I could have been in a cult meeting. Dang it.
Just
Forgotten
second.
I'm an initiate.
No.
that's a
Put my
weekend
paintbrush
thing. You don't
down,
do that
wipe
on
my hands on
Wednesday.
a cloth. Check the peephole kind of as just a precautionary
You see it's Mr.
This is
Ellsworth
Chicago.
outside.
pop over the door. Hey, Mr. Ellsworth.
Well, you were supposed to do 2 bits. You didn't do 2 bits.
Shut the door.
Well, you didn't have to shut the door in that case.
What's up, Mr. Ellsworth? I'm in the middle of a. Got to finish this project this afternoon.
Oh,
What's up?
I'm sorry. I didn't want to.
No,
didn't
you're
want to
okay.
disturb
Okay.
you or anything. Richard's gone out for the day. He had some personal errands to attend to. Something about
I need this
About,
picture.
face off. Do you know what that is?
Face off?
Yeah, he said it was very important that he caught face off, whatever that.
That's
meant.
a movie. You know, you really should replace Richard. He sucks.
Well, no, I don't know. I don't know about that. Richard's doing the best he can. You know.
Okay, we'll table that for
He's
later.
not. Well, no, I'm keeping up with what you're putting down.
Okay, all right. Because
I know he's not exactly high functioning.
not
But neither am I. If you
in
haven't
any.
noticed.
Yeah, different kind. Anyway, what can I do for you,
Miss,
Mr. Ellsworth?
when you get to be my age, you start to forgive and you start to forget. Well, mostly forgetting.
Let's see which one is more.
Well, I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, but I'm just kind of lonely out there in the apartment. I thought I'd come by and see if I wanted some coffee or a friendly conversation or something. I just feel like I'm just absorbing dust sitting out there in 306.
Well, I'm almost done. Do you just want to come in?
Oh, sure. If you'll have me.
Are you allergic to cats? I've got a cat.
I don't think so. No.
Oh, we'll find out.
I've been exposed to cats nearly 100 years now. I haven't killed me yet.
Okay, all right. Well, here you go. Here's directing to my
He sort of shuffles inside,
couch.
just taking a look at your apartment.
Oh, it's a nice place.
Thanks. I'll get you some coffee. You just have a
Sure.
seat.
Where would which? I'm sorry.
I
I'm
will
having trouble
direct you to the
identifying a
cushion.
chair. Oh, I see.
The
It's
couch.
not a proper chair. It's just okay.
It's a couch, but
Well, there's just a lot of stuff on it.
there's not a lot.
It's hard to know what.
I will move like my notebooks over.
Oh, there it is. I found it. It's right over here underneath all the notebooks.
Okay. All right. Okay.
There we go.
Yep.
Oh,
mhm.
that's a little sharp. Okay. Yeah, there we go.
Okay. I'll get
What's that you're working on?
it's a project for there's a business across town. They need some posters made for an event they're having, and they're paying me to do it. I just need to finish it real quick. You know.
I know that tone of voice. I've heard it before. I've heard myself use it.
Well, you know,
It's just something you gotta get done.
it pays the bills.
It pays the
It
bill.
pays
You're
the bills.
absolutely
Yep.
right. Now, I don't mean to lecture you or anything, but
I will go back to working.
you ought to do less of that and more of what your heart tells you. It may be harder in the long run, but you won't feel like you're working.
Well, the good thing is, if I do enough of these, then I have enough free time to do what I actually like to do.
But if you do enough of those, you find you don't have any free time left to do what you wanted to do in the first place.
Sure, but I also get to eat, so you kind of
That's
gotta, you know.
I wanted to do that.
Food's pretty good.
I will say, as you get older, it starts to get overrated. But you know, you young people, you enjoy it. You enjoy your taste.
I do enjoy the food. Do you? And I'm still painting, like multitasking at its finest. Do you want some coffee, Mr. Ellsworth?
Oh no, thank you. It runs right through me.
Yep. Okay.
I try to keep about one cup of fortnight.
Fortnight.
Do people still say fortnight?
I mean, not usually, but that's okay. I'll give you a pass. It's cool.
He's just sort of sitting there, kind of twiddling his thumbs, looking around the apartment.
So you're an artist by trade and aspiration, I take it.
Yes. Went to a prestigious art school here.
Oh, I see.
I don't know the name of any prestigious art schools off the top of my head.
I went to Insert Chicago.
I went to Insert.
Oh, you did. Oh, yes.
I think
I've
there's
heard
like
of it.
Chicago Institute of Arts.
I mean, I'm not from Chicago though, so I would have.
Oh, yes. That's a upscale place. I understand. We had a couple of designers come from over there back in the day.
Yeah, no, it's a good school. I did art. You know, did some art history and.
Oh, art history, huh? So you didn't want to make any money at first.
Well, you know, they tell you when you're young to do what is you want to do, and then you scale it down.
Miss, pardon my French, but that's bullshit. They tell you what they want you to do to make money for them, and then you have to do what you want to do, just to stick it to them.
Okay. No, you sticking it to the man back in the day?
Well,
That I could see.
I wouldn't say so. I was building important places for the man, I suppose. So
Not really fighting the man as much as
really, in
working
a way,
for
I
him.
was enabling the man.
Yeah, I see that.
Well, that's neither here nor there. I was not really a rabble rouser in my day. that form you're drawing there on the poster, that that reminds me of something. Have you? Now, I know this is going to sound a little wacky.
It's all right, Mr. Ellsworth. We've been spending enough time together. I'm not really, I'm not bothered by much.
Have you ever heard of sacred geometry?
I don't know, have I?
I don't know. Have you?
What would I roll to see?
Cult.
Intelligence and academics.
Intelligence and academics, that's 5.
Divine ratio, those kind of fun things.
Yeah.
Because I want to say yes, but
Yeah, I would assume so.
I would assume so.
With like art, you would know like certain like.
That's 2 successes, so yeah.
2 successes. Okay. So you've heard of sacred geometry. You know this was a thing that the Pythagoreans believed in in ancient Greece. The notion that
Certain numbers come up a lot.
well, not numerology. That's technically a separate thing. Sacred geometry was the idea that there was an underlying mathematical perfection under, there's this mathematical perfection underlying all of experiential reality, and there was something worthy of worship, something spiritual, something sacred about that. That you saw in nature, the way that things like the golden spiral, the golden rectangle, and everything replicated themselves and found themselves in nature.
Yeah,
Good
that's
so.
something I know about in real life too. Cool.
The
Doesn't happen very
angels in the
often.
That-
architecture.
There was something about those shapes, those forms, and the math behind them that made them key to understanding something beyond mere facts, mere supposition.
Popped up in many cultures.
So he says that form like that, it looks like the Vesica Pisces. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, actually I have.
Yes, you draw a circle, right? You pick a point. You take the radius over, and then you make that point the center. You draw another circle around that, right? And then the little bit in the middle, it looks like a football.
Yeah.
That what are they? I think it translates to the bladder of the fish. I don't know what those Greeks were thinking. This little football shape. It has those perfect ratios and everything. The tips and it's just a perfect form in terms of the math, in terms of the aesthetic quality to it. Did you know that the ratio of that? Did you study much of what was his name? Pythagoras, Euclid, and all those really early forms of geometry and so on.
Well, I mean, I know about it. I won't say.
Oh,
I
sure,
studied
they
it.
will. Those art history.
Art history.
Those
yeah.
art history professors. They'll
Not-
just skip over that.
Not
part.
not math.
They won't give you the.
mathematicians so
They
much.
won't give you the foundations that you need. I can tell you, as an architect, foundations are pretty important. Well, the Pythagoreans and some people think the early Christians were onto this too. Did you know that in the Vesica Pisces, right, the ratio of the height to the width of it, now they thought that was a holy value. Do you know what that number is? It's a 265 by 153. That's the ratio. Now, did you know that in the Gospel of John, when Jesus Christ was creating the fishes and loaves, to feed everybody,
yeah.
they say that he created 153 fishes. It's funny how that works out, doesn't it?
Some would say it's coincidence.
Some would say that. I prefer to believe that there is something there beyond the math, beyond the art, beyond the beauty. There's some truth there. Now maybe it's not, God as some people know it. It's not, a Yahweh or what have you. but there's something there, and it reflects itself in the beauty of these forms. I do believe that. I know it sounds a bit wacky, but I really do believe that those things are something trying to speak to us, through these shapes, these forms. I just happened to see it there, and I thought, well, that right there is an old fish bladder right there, just staring right at me.
Well, I will take that as a compliment, Mr. Ellsworth. Thank you.
No, of course. If you ever want to know more about the old sacred geometry, Pythagoras and Euclid and all that, you can take a look at there's a building that Le Corbusier designed back in the late 20s called the Via Stein. Well, it's short for something more French than that. But the way that he put that place together, all the rectangles and everything, those are golden rectangles, which are formed out of the golden ratio. Quite approximates the golden rectangle. He formed that way because he knew that golden rectangle spoke to people. No, not literally, mind you, but when people went in there, they felt something. They felt this divine sort of peace at the notion that things were balanced and beautiful. Now you can either research that on you can Google that or you can watch that what's that cartoon with Donald in Math Magic Land. He used to show that in the 60s. I put that in the high schools or something, middle school to show that.
What?
It's Donald Duck, the cartoon character. He would go around and they would teach him stuff about the pentagram and the golden ratio and all that stuff. It was a whole thing.
Must have missed that. Might be a little too young for that.
Well, I don't know if they're still showing it.
No,
you can probably find it on the YouTube. Yeah.
Probably find. I'll have to.
Now you got the bill.
Well, you know what? But inspiration comes from interesting places. I might.
You're absolutely right. I wholeheartedly encourage you to read more about it. You can find all sorts of interesting shapes in terms of the sacred geometry, the seed of life, as they call it, with all its sort of undulations and everything. It's really fascinating. If you don't subscribe to all that holy order stuff, that don't bother me. That that's your business. Yeah. But you can surely use some of those shapes in the work you're doing.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you.
People like it. It looks very neat. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Ellsworth.
Of course.
I might not look like it, but I bet you'd get along with my family, and I'll go on talking about how I'm from the South and like Southern Baptist, and make small talk with the nice.
So you have some small talk
older
with
grandpa,
with
adopted
with Mr. Ellsworth.
Yeah.
About the trials and tribulations of being in the South and being raised by a Baptist, oriented family. And he talks about the Lutheran side of his family that he doesn't like. Now, he's never felt particularly religious, but he's always felt a kind of a spiritual presence, in his life and so on and so forth. You guys have a nice chat. It takes a little bit of an afternoon.
Finish my fucking poster at some point.
You're able to finish the poster while the two of you are talking. And you have a nice time, and he thanks you for... he seems really sincere. He sort of grabs your hand and warmly takes your hand and says, thank you.
I'm gonna be real broken up when this guy dies or is a
He
bastard.
thanks you.
It's the only two options.
Because I like this grandpa a lot. I think I'll keep him.
He
At
thanks you
first,
for
I was like, "What?" I was
spending,
going to say,
spending time.
"When's the estate sale?" But
Scritches my cat behind the ears. Really get those heartstrings pulling. It's cool.
And he shuffles out of your apartment.
Oh.
And then you hear a loud explosion.
no. Then you hear a
No. Okay, so that was the middle of the first week of November. It's a Wednesday, right? The following week, it is 9:00 at night. It's a Friday. Where are the four?
Can I be upstairs with you having a mind-expanding yoga session?
But it probably would actually be fucking yoga.
Literal
Because
yoga.
M gets real bored.
That's what you're
You
you're
want
trying
it
not to
hot?
show how disappointed you are that it's actual yoga.
You're like, I don't want to do downward dog. Give me some pot, man.
You do upward high.
Yeah, I like that.
Can we multitask here? Come on. I need some lubrication for my joints here.
What about the two of you? So
Broke my
the two of
clavicle
you-
again.
So you guys are in
Payments.
Emily's apartment doing yoga or yoga.
Literal yoga. Much to your dismay.
Cecil, where are you?
I may be
That's the cooldown.
A little bit of yoga and a little bit of yoga.
I may be like out with clients
Yoga flame.
or like something like that, like out like,
Client that late though?
It's 9 o'clock. Yeah,
It
9
is
o'clock on
9
Friday.
o'clock.
So are you at a bar?
like
Like
like the post work
Like
kind of like
networking type
Oh, yeah,
shit.
okay.
Oh, you don't know? Well, yeah,
Coworkers,
that makes
yeah,
sense.
coworkers.
Yeah, so you're having a drink with some people that you know, and you know. Okay. Fisk, consolidating your criminal empire.
Are
against
you
Daredevil?
next door going,
What's that smell?
should I go visit?
no this.
You wait until you do smell the pot and then you come visit me?
Just
Just
show
like
up on your
open up-
balcony. Hey,
What's up?
I like the idea that I don't use your front door.
I mean,
I always like.
I'll just go ahead and say that my
mantle around the
virtue
side.
is
See it, like,
my
billowing
virtue is
kind of out
compassion.
the-
So like I probably like feed everyone and give them pot. So
Are you hungry? Because I'm hungry.
God, I'm hungry. Who wants some
Brownies.
fucking Oreos and pop? No.
I'm gonna say probably out. I mean, it's Chicago, so probably doing a larger LGBTQ sort of community event kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, mixers or something like that.
Okay. So you're coming home from that. It was a little bit earlier, in the night. So 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's wrapping up. You're making your way
Get
back.
home safe.
Are you walking home? Or are you taking a taxi? What are you doing?
What? It's November.
Yeah, so it's like second week in November. So in
Okay.
Chicago. So
Snowed
yeah.
or
Yeah, so
no
it's-
snow?
A little cold
Well, it's not snowing at the moment. It's cold,
cold,
and it's kind of
yes.
lazily raining.
and probably windy. I'll grab like a ride share or something. Back.
Okay, yeah, so you
Yeah.
get
So I
Uber
can
or
be
something.
drunk.
Yeah, of course. So you
Stay
close the
safe,
door of the
kids.
Uber, and I give the guy, thank the guy, and he just sort of drives off. And as you turn to kind of look at the Hartford Place across the street, well, he sort of puts you on a curve, right? So you're making your way up to it. You can see that your vision's a little fuzzy. You have like a little bit of drink, a little tipsy. You can see there are a lot of people outside Hartford Place, and they're all sort of looking up.
Can
Just
I
a handful of
like wander across the street, check both ways real quick, like midway through the street?
Jaywalking,
Approach
kids, be
somebody
careful.
and then just kind of like try to do the I'm gonna follow where your eyes are going kind
Okay.
of thing.
The two of you in Emily's apartment,
Like a
you're doing
ratio
sort of. Are you doing yoga or yoga?
Literal
Which
yoga.
No, you're doing
Literal yoga.
We haven't got to the yoga
Okay,
yet.
so the two of you are doing literal yoga when the fire alarm goes off.
Oh no!
Shit.
Ah,
Grab
damn
Banks. Open the
Cutting to you outside.
door.
You see, Fisk, as you're looking up, the first thing that you get is the sting in your nostrils of smoke. And as you look up, you see that there's black smoke, thick plumes of it, and these snapping orange flames coming out of the windows of a third-floor apartment.
Coffee.
Is it next to mine?
It's next to yours.
Unfortunately, I'm going to grab my cat and run straight over to Mr. Ellsworth's apartment because he's like a 90-fucking-year-old man.
So you
Yeah,
run out.
and I'm with her.
So the two of you run out.
Like you
This is what
do.
you're seeing. The two of you run out into the hallway, right? And you can see that underneath 306's door, smoke is pouring out into the hallway. The place looks completely obscured with smoke as it's sort of pluming out underneath
Check the door for heat.
I'm going to call.
You sort of touch the
911.
door is quite hot. Yeah, if you're touching the wood, not the,
That's not
the
good.
handle.
Yeah,
I'm calling
not the handle. The
Back
wood.
of the hand.
Okay,
Check
you call
the
911.
back.
Yes, absolutely.
So you
Report
call
the fire.
You report the fire? Okay, so they say they're going to be there just as soon as they can, just to
And we
to
start-
evacuate the building and all that
And
stuff.
then just start like screaming Mr. Ellsworth's name.
Okay. That was okay. You hear nothing. You
The apartment is burning down.
He doesn't care.
Does it feel like we could open the door and not get toasted?
No, it feels quite hot. Like if you open the door, you're getting a
Blowback, basically.
Yeah, blowback.
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you know about fire?
Now, of course, you might not necessarily know that. You could try it over,
Open
knock
a
the
window.
door down or whatever. Maybe it'll be fine. I honestly don't want to say one way or the other. Like if you want to try to knock the door down, that's your.
But the door is warm. You get,
It is warm.
you get that for
I checked
free.
it for heat, so I would know.
It's hot. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's too hot, isn't it?
Cutting back to you outside, you see Fisk as you're sort of you're looking up at this in horror at this massive fire that's going on the third floor. Give me a wits and what is it? Composure.
I can do that.
Yes, wits and composure. Just kind of notice.
Perception.
Yeah, it's kind of a perception roll.
I'm actually pretty solid at that. 6 dice. 4 9s.
All right,
Almost amazing.
almost good. So you actually, out of the corner of your eye, one of the figures that was previously standing on the sidewalk, kind of looking up, gawking at this fire that's going on, is starting to kind of creep alongside the back of the apartment building. You can see it's like it's a strange looking figure. It's hooded in a sweat jacket and what looks like loose pants and barefoot,
Just trying to
Is some of your friends?
creeping along the side of the apartment.
I
see.
This figure sort of looks, creeping around, looks back over their shoulder,
What I do.
and the two of you, for just a split second, might make eye contact. And the figure breaks into a run through the alleyway.
Oh,
From
let's
the
go.
parkour person? What?
Let's go.
The race is on.
I like just that survival instinct of like something's going on here. I need to find out what's going on. I'm going to chase after it.
Okay, so what I need is stamina and athletics.
Meanwhile, you and I are probably exiting the building now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Can't open the
are you
door.
using any of it? What are your parkour merits again?
I've got flow, cat pass, and wall run. So
Okay.
that's going to help with pretty much any low-lying debris,
I'd grab my bicycle
things
on the
to
way
jump
out.
over.
I
Okay.
got my cat. I can't carry him. My paintings.
And
Easily exposed.
I guess if I have to scale a wall, I can do that
Either one of us grab
first
the
10
pot,
feet
though.
pretty
Give me a
easy.
second to look up the parkour
Hopefully
yeah,
they can
ones.
contain it.
Merits.
Because
No.
cat pass was the one about dropping. And
Yes, that's the one
Reducing
about sort of
damage.
controlling your damn flow. Subtract your parkour from the successes needed to pursue or evade when in a foot chase,
okay.
and then ignore environmental penalties to athletic rolls equal to your parkour rating. What's your parkour rating? You said it was 3,
Because up to wall run.
so it's -3. Okay.
Thanks.
Could be real.
Okay, so
This guy dies.
drop. Okay, hold on.
So it was dropping 2 and then
Drop.
environment? Or not
Drop 2 of those dice for me.
Okay. And then if I'm rolling against them because of fleet of foot, they drop 1, I think, in a chase.
Oh,
Was
right.
that
Yeah.
specifically to get away from something?
Fleet of foot.
That's what I'm trying to remember.
You gain +1 speed per dot, and anyone pursuing you suffers -1 per dot.
Okay, so it's
So it
only
has nothing to do
chase.
with that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So roll that for me. Tell me what you get.
One success that explodes.
Very good.
Well, just one success. Man, that's a lot of
Okay,
3s and 4s.
so you're able to, with your fast twitch muscle fibers, break into a run and continue following. You make your way down the alley. The two of you are kind of keeping pace at the moment, but you're gaining on the figure just so steadily. He manages to make a quick sort of juke off to the right behind this sort of pile of metal trash cans, knocking them over in sort of your path as he hooks to the right. I need another stamina and athletics roll. Okay. This time, as you're making your way through the alley, you see that you can only see the runner, this guy that you're following, here and there because the shadows of telephone poles and garages are kind of slicing into the orange glow of what the streetlights normally be. It's actually kind of dark in this particular alleyway. Okay. So, you're going to take -4 because of the bad lighting.
We're down to
But
just
isn't
4
it
dice.
-2 for the environmental?
That's only for
hazards?
if I'm reading this correctly, that's for...
Because there was something about the environmental hazards.
Oh, environmental penalties. Okay, so it's broader than that. So in that case, it would just be dropping 2 dice.
Okay. 2 back. And then specialties +1, right?
Yes.
Okay. Because I do have parkour in that.
Cool. Then roll for me again.
Hey.
1 explosion.
Yep. And 2.
2 successes. Okay.
Yep. 10 and 9.
So through the dark alley, you're able to leap over the steel, the metal trash cans.
One hand on it leap.
Pretty easy to do that kind of faith from Mirror's Edge kind of one leap.
Cat pass.
Your legs are pumping. You are catching on him, gaining every couple of seconds. Just as your strides start to bring you up, just behind the runner, you see the figure stumble in the dark, fall to their knees, and then onto their face on the pavement. And your momentum is enough that you kind of go past him a little bit and start to turn the way back around. And you can make some of the figure out as you're doing that kind of turn to rear back on your target. You see when the figure's body hits the ground, something happens to it. It's like a sack of sand fell off of a truck. You see chunks of what look like plaster scatter out onto the sidewalk. I mean, onto the alley floor, out of what looks like now an empty sweat jacket.
Like slowly approach, fishing around in my pocket for first aid kit.
Okay, so as you find your sort of small kind of pocket first aid kit, you make your way closer to the body, and you find that there was a person there just a second ago. It's a split second that this happened, and now it looks like there is this almost like fanning out on the ground of plaster dust and gauze. There's some nails here and there, and then this empty sweat jacket and loose pants just lying flat, crumpled but flat on the concrete.
When you say nails,
No, sorry, like building nails.
Iron nails.
There's a big difference. I just needed to know which one.
Sorry. Spooky. Yeah.
Disgusting.
I want you.
There's a literal pile of fingernails chasing after you.
You need to check integrity because this is weird shit. So that is resolve plus composure.
It's not great.
What's your current integrity?
7. Standard default.
Okay, you add a dice.
Okay.
Because of that modifier. And let's see if the circumstances. You drop a dice because you witness the supernatural, non-violent.
Some weird shit.
Tell me what you roll.
2 8s.
2 successes. Okay, good.
Okay.
All these doubles. It's just weird.
You've also rolled a lot of 4s off of your 10s.
And 3s. Well, I've rolled a lot of 3s, not off of 10s, though.
Okay, so luckily you do not go immediately insane.
Good.
That's
steps.
a plus.
Baby steps.
You are, however, spooked.
Take spooked.
That's a condition.
That's weird.
2
That's your
spooky.
The spooked condition. Your character has seen something supernatural. Not overt enough to terrify her, but unmistakably otherworldly. How your character responds to this is up to you, but it captivates her and eats her attention. You can shed this condition when your character's fear and fascination causes her to do something that hinders the group or complicates things. Now, when you shed the condition, there's a reason that you're going to want to do this. You gain a beat. Which again, if you get 5 beats, you get an experience point. See how that works?
Unlike Call of Cthulhu, you do want to stick your face in danger.
Yeah, you're incentivized to do that. Yeah, and because of the nature of this game, it's going to happen anyway. So why not get something out of it?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so you see this man who has, from what looks like to you, disappeared,
or at least splattered across the street
into construction materials.
So I think in the moment, not thinking clearly, I'm going to phone M.
Yeah, I think we're probably friends at this point.
At least enough to be like, hey, I've got your number.
Okay, so cutting the two of you, you've made your way out of the apartment building.
I
You're
grabbed my purse and my
You're
card.
now kind of like making your way into the mass of people who are sort of like the people who are exiting out of Hartford Place, the other tenants and the gawkers and everything like that. Kind of trying to, you're looking through the crowd trying to make sure. Oh, did that person get out? Did that person get out? Is everything all right?
Is it like a loafy cat, or is it like?
No, it's a nice little black cat.
Your smartphone rings.
I don't even look at who it is. Hello?
I'm like a block or two over. There was a guy here,
Okay.
and not here anymore.
Have you seen our apartment?
Like he tripped out. Yeah, he was there. He was there, and I followed him.
Why'd you
That's why I'm here.
Wait, you followed him? I'm confused. Why'd you follow him?
Because he ran.
He ran from a fight.
Yeah.
Where are you?
Like moment as I walk to a corner to make sure I get the right. This corner.
Okay, hold on. I'll be right there. Hey, it's Ellsworth apartment, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
We knocked and he didn't answer. We couldn't open the door. It was too hot.
Did you do shaving haircut?
I didn't do shaving.
No.
She
There you
didn't.
go.
She didn't know to do
Never
shaving.
know.
But I did scream his name, and even at 90, I think he would have heard me.
But that was the magical
I'll
incantation to get
I'll
to
be
the secret house.
walking over towards where you
I
said you
tried
were.
to teach you.
Are you going to tell me where you're going?
Probably not. I'll just kind of like look at you and go, and
Cat.
like gesture, cat, phone.
Yeah, I follow. And as I
Dragging
actually
the bike along.
get my bike out, you want to ride?
No, I'm okay. I'm gonna
I
walk.
got
I'm
like
okay.
was it not handlebars, but the things on the
Don't
rear
trust my
tires.
don't trust my
Oh,
balance
the
with
spokes.
a cat and a smartphone
Or not
and fucking
I want to do a bike test.
shock and
See
trauma.
How fast I get over there.
Okay, sure, yeah.
So what's that? Dexterity and drive?
Yes, that's right.
That's right. You two know each other.
Yep.
So one explode.
Do you like each other?
You got a 10 over here.
It's a rivalry.
Tentative.
Yeah.
One success.
We're both fighting over
One
the
success.
same, like the same jobs,
Clientele.
career
So,
stuff. Yeah.
you don't get there particularly quickly, but you get there quicker than most people would on a bike. So you get in there, you pedal pretty quickly. So you,
My speed is 13, if that...
Damn.
your foot speed, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, you're already pretty fast on your feet. So you're able to get there in under 5 minutes. Yeah, so you make your way down there, and you sort of skid to a stop, and you see Fisk sort of, crouching down next to what looks like a pile of clothes and plaster everywhere, plaster dust.
Trudging up behind. I'm in fucking
Okay,
shock. I need
eye
a
for the
blanket.
strange. How does that work? Yeah.
Warm
Okay,
blankets.
eye for the strange, yes. Let me tell you.
You can tell
The
that
language.
something
Not only like my
supernatural's
computer and my adopted grandfather in there, and like all my
There's some
fucking
specific
paintings.
language for that. I want to make sure.
You need a blanket and some hot cocoa, which has probably been spiked with
I-
vodka or something.
Preferably given to me
This
by Benedict Cumberbatch.
And I won't fight you there.
If we're gonna go with the blanket reference.
It was a supernatural marriage?
Mm-hmm.
No, it wasn't.
Was it?
No, it
No,
wasn't.
it was
Eye for the
mental.
strange was a mental.
Yeah.
Don't lie to me.
It was omens.
Yeah,
Omen
was-
sensitivity
yeah.
was one.
It gives you like the yes nos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Roll intelligence and composure.
Do I also need to roll something when I show up and see the plaster on the floor?
No. It looks to you like it's weird, but
Well, I also have
You didn't-
tolerance for biology,
Yeah.
so.
It wasn't moving.
well, there's no
But
human
you-
parts there.
Oh, okay.
You can't tell
Two
that it was
successes.
supernatural just from the
What
scene.
now?
Okay.
2 successes.
2 successes. Okay. So
You
I
didn't
must
witness
tell
it.
you,
Yeah, that's true.
if the scene has a supernatural cause, It does. And I must provide you with one piece of found information that confirms the answer.
Ooh.
Okay. So,
It's the nails. They're actually fingernails.
No.
okay. So as you get off your bike, the
installation.
two of you are approaching this thing. You can see that now that you looked more closely, because you were coming at it from afar.
Still
Fisk started looking at it from relatively close up, and it became closer. From your view, as you're walking in, you notice that the plaster sort of explosion lines, almost, if you lean on the sort of the pattern that it makes, looks like hands
Spray pattern.
and legs outstretched in an oddly
Blood
specific
spider.
pattern.
You said this was a person?
I was chasing it.
I've heard about stuff like this before. This is some supernatural shit.
Are you too high?
No,
Not
no.
yet.
Not
My
yet.
apartment's the pot is. Oh God, everything's on fire. Can you hold? Take Binks.
Yeah,
here.
I got Binks.
Okay, thanks.
Mustache.
And I will pick up the hoodie and.
You get this hooded sweat jacket. Yeah, it's completely empty, apart from stains from what looks like plaster dust and everything in there. It is
Unremarkable.
it's unremarkable.
Unisex, men's, women's.
It's with this particular model of sweat jacket. It's difficult. It doesn't have a woman's cut or anything. It
Yeah.
looks like anyone could wear it.
One of those
Can I do an
ones.
occult check to see if I know anything about this?
Yes. Give me. I guess intelligence and occult would be appropriate.
Yeah, that thing at least.
One success.
One success. Okay, you have not heard of anything in your kind of... How many dots do you have in occult?
One.
One? Okay, so you're a dabbler, right? You've read some occult stuff.
You do tarot with friends.
Right. Tarot with friends. It's more popular than words with friends. You haven't heard of anything in the occult specifically about creatures of this... You've read about creatures of this method, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of creatures that look like human beings or humanoid figures, but are clearly not. They're something else. Now, specifically as to what that has to do with plaster and nails and stuff like that, you've never heard of that. That has nothing to do with anything you've read.
I don't think this ever was a human.
I mean, you chased it, and
It was a person. What do you think? It was a dog? A plaster dog went running?
oh, okay. Did
Well, humans don't normally explode into plaster, now do they?
No, they don't.
this is
Just
just
dick.
this is just okay. Don't start. Apartments on fire. Perspective.
Cecil, at the bar you're at,
It's a 2-for-1 mimosas night.
the TV showing the rerun of Everybody Loves Raymond is interrupted by a breaking news segment showing your apartment building on fire. You can hear the news reporter talking about it. A blaze has broken out on the 3rd floor of Hartford Place. Firefighters are on their way, and they're going to attempt to contain the blaze.
At least I got renter's insurance.
Heartless bastard.
Credits roll.
Wackity.
You better go. You better go over there anyways. Just make sure. I don't know. See if anything's gotten out. Anyone else has gotten out? Hopefully, everyone's all right.
Step 1, anything. Step 2,
Anyone.
Priorities, check.
Okay, we're back to the alley. With the three of you.
We should go. We should go back. We're not going to learn anything from.
I'm at least taking a picture. This is
Yeah.
Weird.
Okay. Here.
Make sure you have your flash on. It's the middle
Yeah.
of it's pretty late at night. It's
I'll
wet.
put the hoodie back down and take my cat back.
Okay. Take a picture with your smartphone.
Can we hear the fire department here yet?
Yeah, you can hear in the distance the truck is says pulled up, and you can hear some firemen kind of yelling to each other orders, and
I head back and see if I can find like Richard or Mr. Ellsworth or anything.
Yeah, same.
Okay, wits and composure, please.
Ooh.
You can all do it if you like.
Yeah.
Or you can do a teamwork thing, or whatever you like. You can all do it individually, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'll just...
I know I'm not bad.
1 success.
No
One
successes.
No successes?
3 7s.
Hey,
Not
lucky
as
seven.
lucky as
you
you
should
think.
you ought to get something for that. Sure. So the two of you scour the mass of humanity that's outside of the building. They've been sort of pushed back by the sort of impromptu guard line that the fire truck and the firefighters have made and trying to combat the blaze. You see, a couple of firefighters aiming a large hose and spraying water into the third floor.
Does it look like it's going out?
It seems like it's being combated effectively enough.
Okay.
You,
So maybe
the two of you
Fisk won't have to come live with me.
scan the sea of people. You don't see
gonna be
either Mr. Ellsworth or Richard.
Shit. Would I have contact information for Richard or Mr. Ellsworth? As often as I probably...
Been over.
Yeah.
He only cares.
You know that Mr. Ellsworth didn't have a cellular phone.
Yeah.
Richard probably did, but
But God, I never
the
wanted
two
to
of you
fucking
never
talk
had
to that
anything
dude.
even remotely resembling a human
That's
conversation.
because he's an asshole.
So-
I don't like him. I try to give Mr. Ellsworth to fire him probably at least like once a week. Okay.
If ever
so-
heard you doing that, I'd be like,
I like to think it's like a team effort. We're all like, just fire him,
Yeah,
please.
just-
Okay, so nobody. I mean, I don't know what else to do there except wait for the fire department to finish and see if.
as I'm,
See how
like,
the rest of our
texting
night
over.
goes.
Yeah. Pretty shell shocked when you see your fucking apartment on fire and a nice elderly 90-year-old man not out of his apartment. It's pretty
Potentially disappear.
paralyzing. You're not going to want to go anywhere.
Maybe he was watching the Face Off movie.
Face off. It was very important.
Nicolas Cage.
Okay. So that night sort of resolves itself pretty quickly. The firefighters are able to sort of contain the blaze. It looks like the damage was contained to Ellsworth's apartment in particular. Some of it kind of fanned into the surrounding walls, and so that kind of licked a little bit into your apartment. You see one of your walls is kind of like blackened, and thankfully there wasn't any property damage in your apartment, but they end up sort of sealing that particular place off. It's hard for you guys to get into your apartment with the fire damage and everything like that. They've asked you to the management has asked you to sort of take a couple of days, stay with a friend or whatever while they get this thing taken care of. And in the newspaper, about a week later, you see that there is a story about Mr. Ellsworth and the apartment fire, claiming that that this fire broke out due to what the paper describes as a leak from a gas range that caught fire while Mr. Ellsworth was apparently sleeping, and that they did recover a charred body that, based on their autopsy, it seemed to have died from smoke inhalation rather than burning to death. They were noting that the place was locked up. It was asleep. It was just an unfortunate kind of accident that had happened, and they go on to sort of give a brief kind of memorial about this. Simon Ellsworth was a rather well-known architect. He worked with Halliburton Root. He was responsible for designing a lot of the important sort of buildings, and properties along the blue line that the L train travels.
If
Funeral stuff?
that he would be missed, and that there would be a funeral at the end of the week, at a nearby parlor.
Okay. I would totally be going to that if it matters to the story at all.
It can, if you wish it to.
I mean, I don't know if it's prevalent to the story, but yeah, I would totally go to that.
Okay, so
We don't have to go through it
with
if
the
you don't want
horrible
to.
death of an old man. That's the end of our session. It's 11:41.
Yeah.
So tonight's session was designed to get your characters created,
And
get you to like this old man, and then murder him,
Rip our hearts out of our
and then
chests.
destroy your world.
Particularly your wife's.
We already know who the
Exactly.
villain is.
Fucking Richard.
it's Richard, yeah.
Not supernatural at all, just
It's
complete
just Richard.
fucking ineptitude. I'm gonna sock him in his face. Just sheer principle.
Okay, so that was obviously that was my first time running the system and this particular scenario called Chicago Workings. That's not the end of it.
I was gonna say, this isn't a one-shot.
That's not the end of it. I mean,
Right.
there's more. There's plenty more to that, obviously, but and so I plan to do this on Fridays.
Okay.
Obviously, I won't be able to do it next Friday because Tech Week for my show starts.
You have shows.
I literally have a
Right,
show
yeah.
on Friday, and I'll have a show on the next Friday. So there's going to be a 2-week downtime for this, but it'll give you a chance to think about how sad it is that old man died.
Thanks.
You're only curtain 1 week.
Write a eulogy.
We go up. So this
Next Friday.
coming week is Tech Week, and then that's that Friday, Saturday, yeah,
And then the next Friday, Saturday.
and then the next Friday.
Okay,
Saturday,
so there's
It's
2
2
weeks.
yeah, it's
Okay.
just 2 weekends. So, any thoughts about the system or the scenario and how it went?
I really liked this.
I've always liked the like specifically Chronicles of Darkness, that setup where it's like you're just people who have to deal with the supernatural entering your life.
Sure, yeah.
That alone I just fall in love with.
That's part of what appealed to me from the beginning, especially considering it's like a jumping off platform for all of the other stuff that's related, like vampire and werewolf and mage, the ascension, and all this stuff like that, so that your mortal campaign can very quickly mutate into a vampire campaign or a mage campaign or ghosts or
Whoops! Everybody died. Hold on.
wait,
You're not
now
out of
everyone's
this yet.
werewolves, like, and it becomes this whole. It's set in the
Created
same
overnight.
kind of. It's set in the same real world modern day stuff, but now because of the actions of the story, you've unearthed this whole looming subculture, this underworld of things that you were previously unaware of, right? So it gives a kind of a sense of discovery and continuity that appeals to me. So
I definitely liked the pacing for the story, like
Yeah.
getting to know people, not to mention getting to know each other through their interactions with each other.
this
I feel like it
particular
happened really
session was.
naturally.
This particular session it was very important to
Yeah.
get those links together
Except for
to each
Lance,
other
who's
and
not
to
ridiculous at all.
Mr. Ellsworth. Well, he had a long conversation about.
But I mean, like,
Yeah,
the three of us got to know each other, like, very,
Like-
naturally through the session.
Sure.
Poor Lance is just like,
Like-
what's up? I live upstairs. I work all the time.
But what about those figures? I need those figures on my desk. We're going to be off having an adventure, and he's going to be
Right.
mid-adventure and be like, hold on, I got to take this.
I need commercials of Spider-Man.
But that's what I love about it, that it's like you can have an adventuring party like that,
Yeah.
and it works. Like, naturally, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do need to find a way to, like, hook you more into
Maybe I've, like,
whatever's
made
going to go on.
some art for your company or something. I don't know.
There's an
I figured I've probably used you guys as couriers every once in a while, and then
The couriers, yeah.
as like favors, I've like given you tips on like how to like self-promotion.
Branding stuff. Yeah.
Oh, are you that asshole?
So
Who's,
you
like
worked
branding
with-
and information, or is
No,
it like
no,
legit? Okay, okay.
no. It's like I
So it
pay
could go
you,
two ways.
but then I also like
Okay.
Okay.
So
okay.
literal money, and
Yeah.
then by the way, you need to change your Facebook cover
Oh,
photo.
okay. Not the jerk who's like,
Yeah.
oh, instead of tipping you, I'm going to tell
no.
you this.
Don't worry,
I'm
I'll
not
pay
like
you
paying
in
you in promotion.
exposure.
Yeah, right.
Whoa, the douchebag.
We all hate those people. Okay, yeah, no, that will work though. If
Yeah.
you've used all of us before for company business.
So you know of us.
Yeah.
And that also explains why you're not like showing up that much. You're
Right.
not. You don't know us well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
There's like some distance.
You're not
and,
coming to my
like,
apartment hoping to do yoga
Yeah.
and actually having to do yoga with me.
God damn it, actual yoga.
But there may be like sometimes where it'll be like sometimes there may be like event,
Yeah. And I get an invite so I can.
especially after like the thumping sessions. Like if it ever once got mentioned, then it would be like that'd be the whole event. like you hear me coming down the stairs. Open the door. It's like I'm back.
Why do you have to, no, I don't want the old man to die.
The old man dying was the whole point of the. It's the
crux.
whole impetus of the story.
I know.
It's the
I
plot.
could feel it coming
Like-
when I invited him in, and he made a joke about my couch, and I gave him coffee, and I was like, "Oh shit, he's gonna die, isn't he?"
The moment that he showed up more than once is like, he's either an evil bastard or he's gonna die.
Which one?
Damn it.
At least it was the better one.
That's
I guess
true.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't end up being another Lazarus situation.
Still angry about Lazarus.
I still love Lazarus.
One
Still,
day.
Delana also really likes Lazarus. Still, one day.
Like I suggested to
We'll
Jason,
resolve
Lazarus
those
should be
feelings.
our multi-universe villain.
Show up
Daddy.
in every campaign.
We have Mr. Skeleton, our cross-dimensional
Merchant.
merchant, and then we have our cross-dimensional baddie.
I mean, it
I
works.
can't make it a Lazarus stuff.
That's fine.
That's okay.
That's
was-
a lot of work.
That was
Make a little cowboy
That was some
man.
backstabbing. Alexi didn't need to be charmed to get charmed of Manbow.
It was all really
It's
good.
good though. I liked it.
The heartbreaking.
Yeah, I'm eager to dig a little bit more into it,
Yeah.
and get more familiar with the system, and get a little more comfortable with it. Because I think
Yeah.
we need to take a little bit. I think during the next time we do this, I think we should take a little bit more of a proactive approach and actually like. Well, maybe not necessarily. Obviously, I was about to say maybe we should find more times to try to roll. You know what I mean? Like to engage with the mechanics.
I think it was just because it was the intro. We were just kind of getting.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, that's fair. Yeah.
It felt right in that sense. It didn't
Yeah.
feel
Okay,
like...
well then that's good. If you guys felt it was right.
Yeah, no.
This
It's,
is one of the times where I didn't roll a lot and I still felt good about it.
yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Same.
Because I knew that this first session, while we're sort of introducing this thing, would be more. Now, this system is the storytelling system,
Yes.
so the notion is that it's
It
not
has a
hard,
strong
crunchy, mechanical stuff. It's like it's promoting like
Yeah.
narrative beats and stuff like that. But yeah, this part in particular was going to be kind of light on the
okay.
mechanics anyway. So
If you had terrible NPCs, it would have like fallen
Well, sure,
flat
yeah.
and been awful.
Yeah.
But
why do you think I agreed to do this?
because you're adorable,
So
it worked well. Also, were you like channeling my grandpa the entire time, or what? Jesus.
I was just doing an old grandpa pastiche, but kind of an earthy one. You know,
Yeah.
what I mean? It said it knows what's up.
Yeah. Been around the block.
He's been around the block.
It's
He's
that thing
been
where
on
you're-
YouTube.
Yeah, where you're borderline stepping on stuff where it's like, that's not quite...
Phrasing.
It's not totally cool what you said.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Right where you're like, I would feel bad to point it out,
Yeah. Right.
but I also wouldn't say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
The second
that's
he
that
was like,
perfect
"Oh,
level for
young
it.
miss, you're," and I was like, "Don't say Oriental. Don't say
Yeah,
Oriental. Don't say Oriental."
Don't say it.
I wouldn't go that. No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd have to do that.
Have you met grandpas?
Well, no. I don't want him to be, like I said, he's supposed to be kind of earthy and with it.
Yeah,
so
I
wasn't
liked
going to be
it.
like that.
It was like
He needs to be lovable, otherwise
Yeah.
it falls apart.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you guys hated him, then this whole thing
No,
would
he
have...
was
Oh, good.
absolutely.
Yeah.
He was
Great.
absolutely
You
lovable.
burned to death, you asshole.
If he was Richard...
Now you know why Richard wasn't the
Yeah.
old man. Because then you would have just been like, good riddance. Fucking
Peace
idiot.
out.
I hated Pearl Jam anyway.
Yeah, unfortunately, he probably survived.
Right?
I guess
Or
not.
left
No.
the gas range on.
There was...
Yeah.
No, the
Turns out we actually all have like electrical ovens.
The newspaper article noted that didn't say anything about his elders were next to kin or
Yeah.
nurse or anything like that.
That's why I'm probably going to go to the funeral and
Yeah.
take
Figure it
him
out.
probably one of the pictures he liked that I made. His family, if he has family.
See what
with
we
all
can
the
go
golden
from there.
ratios.
Yeah.
Golden triangles.
And then that becomes like the object of like our next event is the super golden ratioed painting. Congratulations.
I mean, we've gotten dustings of possibility.
Mm-hmm.
You,
So.
you
Yeah.
use the
I like
plaster
that
from the
start.
got as for the canvas.
Magic.
I mean, I'm sure he was in my apartment more than once. I'm sure if he was lonely during the middle of the day, who's the one who's home? The artist who works from home.
Yep.
So he was probably in my apartment a lot. It's good, babe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it.
In the afternoon.
We'll pick this up again.
Afternoon
Unfortunately,
coffee.
with a 2-week downtime, and then we'll pick it back up as soon as I have my Fridays clear again. Sundays are still going to go on as usual because the Harvey performances are going to be on Fridays and Saturdays. So that's this coming weekend and the weekend after that. Sunday's not going to be a problem. I think you saw on the Facebook message the Spelljammer thing's going to happen. Start back up on Monday of the week after this coming week, right?